Chapter 219. Lin Qi's face was so swollen that his nose and eyes couldn't be seen clearly. Well, he was sure that his mother wouldn't be able to recognize him either. Only when Zhu Yao's hands were so sore that she no longer had the strength to swing her fists, did she finally stop while panting heavily. Woo-woo. Lin Qi whimpered with his pig head, and received a glare from her. Suddenly, white light burst forth from his body. It seemed that he had expended too much energy, and was about to return to his original form. Sure enough, a moment later, a thud could be heard. The figure in blue had disappeared, and there was suddenly another figure in front of him. Chow Chow. Zhu Yao. That where was the promised Qilin? Aren't you the mythological beast Qilin? What the hell was with this appearance? Persimmon. The Chow shrunk back. Do you think I'm blind? I didn't study, so don't lie to me. Do you think I've never seen a Qilin? How could you be like this dog? Where are your scales? Where are your horns? Where's your hoof? Although she was a bit fierce just now, it wasn't to the extent of hitting a mutant. What really is? The Chow Chow sniffed, feeling wronged. I'm the last beast that has the bloodline of a Qilin. After so many generations, my appearance will naturally change. This change was too big, wasn't it? It was a direct mutation. You're saying, you only have the bloodline of a Qilin? The progeny of the Protoss had never been popular. Back then, she had opened the world-crossing door, and sent the Protoss to different small worlds. Was it because they could not find their own kind, so they intermarried with other races? Why do I feel that it's a little scary? So you're not an orthodox Protoss? Persimmon. Wow. Chow Chow nodded vigorously. Bullshit. As a former orthodox Protoss, he did not want to be related to a Chow Chow at all, okay? I'm warning you, if you dare to call yourself a god again, I'll skin you alive. Chow Chow Lin Yi was stunned. Suddenly, his pair of dog eyes that were swollen like buns became misty with tears. He sniffed and suddenly, as though he had found an outlet to vent his emotions, he wailed loudly. Wah! How can you bully a divine beast like this? You're too inhumane. I don't want to live anymore. Shut up. Fuck, where's your cool and elegant demeanor? Do you have to cry so shamelessly? Wah! I just wanted to flirt with a girl, but you beat me up like this. How am I supposed to flirt? Do I not want to live anymore? Picking up girls? Yiling? You wanted to kill me just now. I just want to show off in front of the girl. Will you die if you let me hit you? I will. Zhu Yao coldly replied. Earlier you clearly wanted to kill me, didn't you? Who said that? Lin Qi cried even more sadly. I just wanted to scare you. If I really wanted to kill you, I wouldn't have controlled your demonic beast in the first place. Instead, I was just watching the show from the side. That made sense. But you injured Yuing. That's because that person suddenly appeared, and I couldn't stop myself. Lin Qi argued. You can't blame me for that. Then why do you keep saying that you won't let me leave here alive? Lin Qi lowered his head and suddenly became a little bashful. I just want to be a little more domineering. Girls like this kind of guy. Who knows, when she's done meditating, she might even want to repay me with her body. After saying that, he casually glanced at Yiling, who was meditating, and sighed. You don't understand the sorrow of us single beasts at all. I don't want to understand, alright? Furthermore, if you want to please me, why did you drag me in? Now the truth is clear. Can you return the life origin fire to me? He said with a pitiful look. The life origin fire is the origin of a divine beast. Without it, I'm just a regular demonic beast. Zhu Yao was startled. If it was really as he said, then she might have really misunderstood him. However, no. No matter who it is, they have to be responsible for their own actions. Zhu Yao coldly said. I don't care if what you said is true or false. Sesame Yuing, they're both the people closest to me. It's a fact that they were injured because of you. You can't just say that you didn't mean it. Even if you didn't have any ill intentions in the beginning, it's a fact that you attacked us. I'm not your mother, and I don't have the obligation to forgive your mistakes. A mistake is a mistake. As long as the result is wrong, no matter how kind your intentions are, it can't change the fact that it's a mistake. If you have the guts to do it, then you must have the courage to bear the consequences. Lin Qi lowered his head, His face was filled with despair. Let me give you one last piece of advice. Yiling isn't suitable for you. She already has someone she loves. And not just one. Lin Qi was startled. He fiercely widened his eyes. His face was filled with disbelief. Enough nonsense. Hurry and remove your control over Sesame. Zhu Yao did not have the time to care about his feelings. Lin Qi's face was filled with despair. I can't remove it. What? Zhu Yao grabbed onto the fur on its neck. Really? Lin Qi trembled. I'm not a purebred god, so I only know how to control, and not remove it. Furthermore, I no longer have my life origin fire, and have already lost my godhood. Zhu Yao was startled. As expected, the word bug on its face had disappeared. It was no longer a beast lord? Then, the crisis of world destruction was resolved? Wasn't that too casual? She simply threw a tantrum. Then what do I have to do to remove Sesame's control? Unless there's a suppression from a purebred god bloodline that's higher than mine, or a similar level suppression. Suppression? The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. She really did have one. But just in case, what are you trying to do? Lin Qi shrunk from her gaze. Zhu Yao chanted an incantation, and with a wave of her hand, she instantly froze the Chow Chow in ice. Looking around, she did not see anyone else, and then sighed. It seemed like she had no choice but to activate that evil favorable impression ability. She materialized a water mirror, and tapped on the activate button on her head. Only then did Zhu Yao snap her fingers towards Sesame, who was frozen. Seemingly in an instant, that thick ice block completely turned into water. Master. In an instant, the person in the ice was startled for a moment. In an instant, his eyes began to shine, and with bold steps he pounced over. With a flash of white light, his right leg sank, and he grabbed onto a figure. Mistress, I suddenly feel that you're devastatingly beautiful. Before she could even reply, a delicate and weak voice took the initiative to reply. I feel the same as well. His left leg sank at the same time. Zhu Yao's heart skipped a beat. She lowered her head to take a look, only to see a delicate pink figure, similar to Sesame, tightly hugging onto her left leg. Using a tone that was overflowing with tenderness, she affectionately said, I've never seen such an otherworldly beauty like you. Boom. Zhu Yao felt as though she was struck by lightning. Chapter 220. Senior Marshal Sister Zhu. The pink figure raised her star-filled eyes, and said with affection, To be able to become a disciple of the same sect as you is definitely a blessing that I have cultivated for 3 lifetimes. Ho ho ho. Misconception, it must be her misconception. Why the hell did she see Yiling hugging her thigh? Zhu Yao raised her hand and desperately pressed the button to turn off world favorable impression ability. Hurry and return to normal, hey. Though the world favorable impression ability was turned off, Yiling did not change in the slightest. Shyly, she raised her head and looked at her. In this vast sea of people, to be able to meet and know you, Ling, or has no regrets in this life. You must have mistaken me for someone else, right? Don't say such strange words, hey. How is that possible? I can mistake anyone in this world, but Senior Marshal Sister Zhu. Her face instantly turned as red as an apple. Ling will never forget you. Zhu Yao simply felt goosebumps growing from the bottom of her feet to her scalp. Her entire body trembled as she grabbed onto Yiling's shoulder and shook her. Yiling, are you alright? Hurry and wake up. Don't scare me. What happened to the promised Mary Sue? This isn't a Yuri novel, hey. Her eyes were instantly filled with emotions, and her smile became even more gentle. Senior Marshal Sister Zhu, don't worry. Linger is fine now. Thanks to Senior Marshal Sister protecting me from the side, Ling was able to successfully form her Azoth core. After saying that, she looked at her shyly. You're so worried about me. I'm very happy. Happy my ass. I'm very unhappy, alright? I beg of you, be more normal. Be a good Mary Sue. This girl was definitely infected by the world favorable impression ability, right? It definitely was, right? Yiling was violently shaken by her, and even her hair had fallen down. However, she still said without any regrets, Senior Marshal's sister doesn't allow me to say it, then. Ling. Or will remember your kindness in my heart. What do you want to remember? Don't remember anything strange, hey? Zhu Yao even had the urge to stomp her hands. Who can tell me? Why does the world favorable impression ability attack everyone indiscriminately? At the very least, consider gender. Sesame was also frightened by this unfolding scene, and looked back at the two of them. Mistress? Don't ask me right now. Zhu Yao hugged her head with her hands, and squatted at the corner, drawing circles. I just want to be alone. Yiling's expression instantly paled, and her eyes instantly turned misty. Who's Jingjing? Puff, please let me vomit blood in peace. Master. I don't want to live anymore. After tossing Yiling back to the group of human practitioners, Zhu Yao used her fastest speed to fly back to Yu Yan's mustard seed dimensional space. She pounced into her master's embrace, and poured out all sorts of heartache. Master. I feel like my moral integrity has suffered 100 blows, and it's directly shattered into foam. I can never recover it. Yu Yan casually hugged her, and habitually used his fingers to stroke her messy hair. With a stern look he said, Moral integrity? What is that? She was speechless. I don't care anymore. Anyway, my soul has been seriously damaged. Zhu Yao sniffled, buried herself in his embrace, and rubbed against him with all her might. While she was at it, she even pulled onto his wide sleeves to wipe her face. After buffering for quite a while, she finally found a little comfort. Yu Yan, whose entire body was covered in tears and snot, that he helplessly sighed. As though he was already used to his disciples' random spasms, he cast a dirt removal art on himself. Habitually, he pulled his stupid disciple's hand, checked her pulse, and casually asked, How's the situation with the beast wave this time? Before Zhu Yao could reply, Yu Yan's expression suddenly changed. What's that in your divine sense? He tapped on her forehead with his finger, and with a wave of his hand, 2 rays of light instantly flew out. A black fruit and a rainbow feather instantly floated in the air. She had almost forgotten about the important matter. Zhu Yao hurriedly explained everything that had happened. Master, help me check if Yu Ying is alright. The main reason she came here this time was for Yu Ying. Although she could sense his presence in the fruit, she was still unable to feel at ease. Yu Yan frowned. Looking at his stupid disciple's worried look, he felt strangely displeased. The cold air around his body began to dissipate uncontrollably. Unhappy? Why the hell did he have to treat an unrelated fruit? Master. Zhu Yao tugged on his sleeves. Why did she suddenly feel a little cold? Yu Yan frowned, and after a while he coldly said, He has simply exhausted his spiritual energy, and has returned to his original form. He will naturally be fine once his spiritual energy recovers. Zhu Yao heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed like she had to bury Yu Ying back into the pit. It's good that he's all right. Yao. Yu Yan glanced at the fruit-shaped Yu Ying, and his expression instantly turned cold. With a stern look he said, Divine sense is a person's lifeline. Remember, in the future, do not store everything into your divine sense, especially unrelated men. I was just anxious. Back then, she simply wanted to find a safe place to settle Yu Ying, so she subconsciously stored him into her divine sense. Yu Yan stroked her head, and said with a stern look, There's not a next time. Understood. Zhu Yao nodded. With a wave of her hand, the feather in the air automatically flew into her palm. Master, take a look at this. Just what is this? Back then, when I saw that devil using it, it looked like a flute. But in my hands it turned into a sword. Yu Yan lowered his head and inspected it. This feather should be the tail feather of a certain bird. The spiritual energy contained within is even more immeasurable, and it's a god's artifact as well. If your master's guess is correct, this should be the tail feather of a phoenix, and its name is Ruling Feather. Phoenix tail feather. Zhu Yao was startled, as she carefully inspected this feather. With her master's reminder, the more she looked at it, the more familiar it looked. Carefully recalling the appearance of the phoenix's original form, there was indeed a feather like this. As a former naked fake phoenix, not being able to recognize it at the first moment was really fate. This tail feather has left its original form, yet it still possesses spirituality. Because it gathered all of the phoenix's power back then, it was created into this weapon. You relied on this god's artifact to raise your strength. What did he mean? Yu Yao, you're already a demigod. Nanny. Zhu Yao was startled, as she hurriedly inspected her inner body. As expected, the Azoth core in her body had disappeared, while her divine sense was as vast as the ocean. As expected, she somewhat understood why that Cao Cao Lin Qi was beaten up like a dog by her. Recalling that back then, her master seemed to have recovered his cultivation because he had obtained that god's artifact as well. Then, this tail feather has become my life artifact as well? Yu Yan's expression sank. No. Plus why the hell was there such a difference in treatment? The only thing that can make this tail feather recognize its owner is the god who plucked it. She wanted to find that plucked bird to chat about life. After returning to Blue Parasol sect, Zhu Yao once again buried Yu Ying in the pit at the back. Other than weeding, she also watered it. She then reinforced the spiritual energy guiding formation in the surroundings. After confirming that Yu Ying was slowly recovering his spiritual energy, she heaved a sigh of relief. Though he had returned to his original form, at the very least, his foundation was not damaged. As long as he was nurtured well, he would be a good fruit in the coming year. Zhu Yao pondered for a moment, and then added a defensive formation at the side. This way it would be foolproof. Yu Ying's obedient son, hurry and grow into a healthy and beautiful youth. Raising her head, she glanced at her surroundings. She wasn't sure if it was her imagination, but why did she feel that the two trees beside her had suddenly turned greener? And earlier, they didn't seem to be bearing any fruits, so why were the trees suddenly filled with fruits? She's looking at me. I want to bear fruits for her. Me too. Walala, in an instant, red fruits fell straight down like rain, smashing onto Zhu Yao's head. Zhu Yao, do I have a grudge against you guys? The moment you return, you want to smash me with fruits. Kuum. Zhu Yao swept the fruits on the ground with her feet. Walking over, she looked at the tree on the left and said, "You're called the tree on the left, right?" "Yeah. She's talking to me. She's actually talking to me." The tree on the left was so excited that its leaves were violently shaking, and its branches were even swaying left and right as though they were convulsing. It looked like an excited fan who had just seen their idol. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched, and she had no choice but to look at the tree on the right. "You're called the tree on the right?" "Yeah. She's talking to me as well. I like you. I really like you." The tree on the right waved its branches. At the very least, it was a little calmer than the tree on the left, as it replied, "I was called the tree on the right in the past, but I have already changed my name. Right now, I'm called the tree on the right side of the pit. I'm called the tree on the left side of the pit." The other tree excitedly turned its head. Are the two of you called deceitful trees together?" Zhu Yao's expression darkened. "I have a presumptuous request. I wonder if I can trouble you two trees." When her words fell, the two trees were startled for a moment. In an instant, little red flowers bloomed all over the trees. She actually said that she can let us help her. I'm not dreaming, right? Help, we want to help you. Was there a need to be this excited? You guys saw it earlier as well. I buried a fruit in the pit. He's someone very important to me. Can I trouble you guys to help take care of him and prevent others from approaching? No problem. The tree on the right side of the pit instantly stood straight. We will definitely take good care of him. The tree on the left silently extended its roots over. I won't let anyone dig him out. Don't worry, everything will be fine. That's good, thank you. Zhu Yao heaved a sigh of relief. With the two trees constantly watching over him, she felt a lot more at ease. Just as she was about to return to the house, an extremely gentle voice sounded from the outside. "Senior Marshal Sister Zhu, you're back as expected?" Zhu Yao's legs turned, and she almost fell. Looking at the cheerful figure that ran in through the door, goosebumps once again appeared on her body. "Don't come over." Zhu Yao reflexively erected a defensive barrier. "What are you trying to do?" Yi Ling was startled. A hint of pain flashed past her eyes. She looked at her with an extremely wronged expression. Senior Marshal Sister Zhu, do you have to guard against me like this? Yes. Zhu Yao solemnly nodded. Her expression grew even sadder. Back then it was all Linger's fault. Back then, I didn't see my own feelings clearly, that's why. Senior Marshal Sister Zhu. Stop. I beg of you, please don't say anything that's immoral anymore. Zhu Yao felt like crying. Just why are you looking for me? Yiling was startled for a moment, and only then did she recall the matter at hand. With an excited look, she said, It's Master and the sovereigns. They wanted me to invite Teacher Zhu, Lord, to the main hall to discuss an important matter. Lord? Me? When did she change her title? Yiling nodded. With a worshipful expression, she looked at her with sparkling eyes. Lord, please don't blame me. I know that you wanted to hide your identity and help my Blue Parasol sect in the dark, which is why you have only shown yourself as a Foundation and Azoth Core practitioner. However, I have already told Master about the matter of you saving me. And back then, when you sent me back, you did not conceal your cultivation, so everyone saw that you're a demigod lord. They actually thought that the reason why she suddenly became a demigod was because she had been concealing her cultivation and purposely pretended to be an Azoth Core practitioner. She had to admit, this hole in her brain was really too timely. Then the reason why they called her to the main hall this time was most likely to pull her into their side, right? After all, until now, she had yet to see a demigod practitioner in any sect or sect. Why did she suddenly feel that she could be proud? Cool. Then let's go. Although she had already taken care of Lin Qi, for some reason the word bug on Yiling's face had yet to disappear. In other words, she still had to continue mingling in Blue Parasol sect. Then she would just treat it as giving face to the landlord and see just what they wanted to do. Lord, this way please. Yiling became cautious and polite as well, as she respectfully led her into the teleportation formation in the main hall. A red light shone, and the scenery in front of her changed. In an instant, she arrived at the plaza of the main hall. Zhu Yao was instantly shocked by the scene in front of her. On the plaza, it was a black mass, filled with disciples. Based on her initial estimation, there were at least 1,000 of them. Their movements were the same, and their clothes were the same. They stood in an orderly and organized manner. The entire plaza was completely silent. Xian Su and the other 2 nascent soul practitioners, as well as sect master Lin Yu, stood at the very front. When they saw Zhu Yao's appearance, their eyes evidently shone. The 4 of them took a step forward, cupped their hands, bowed 90 degrees, and shouted in unison, "Disciple greets Lord." The moment their voices fell, it was as though a loudspeaker had been turned on. The thousands of disciples in the plaza, like onions being poured onto the ground, all of them kneeled down and shouted in unison, "Disciple greets Lord." The scene was magnificent, and the voices were deafening. It was basically capable of causing everyone to feel an intense shock from the inside out. Hence, Zhu Yao could not help but raise her hand and replied, "Everyone rise." Lin Yu, Xian Su, Xian the unnamed nascent soul, the crowd of disciples, the hell-conditioned reflex. And here she was thinking that she had ascended to the throne. All of you rise? Zhu Yao wiped off the awkward sweat on her forehead. Yes. The 4 people in the lead straightened their backs. Sect Master Lin Yu waved his hand to the back, and the crowd of disciples stood up one after another. "What business do you have with me?" Zhu Yao coughed, and once again put on her cold and prideful mask, as though the clown earlier was not her. "Lord." Lin Yu respectfully bowed, and with a wave of his hand, he made an inviting gesture. "This disciple indeed has something to ask. Lord, please enter the hall." The large crowd in front instantly opened up a path, which led straight to the entrance of the main hall. Zhu Yao walked over, and after ascending the stairs, she then turned to look at the crowd of excited and curious disciples. With a wave of her hand, she said, Chapter 221. Your Honor, please have a seat of honor. Lin Yu politely guided her to sit on the seat of honor. There were originally 3 seats arranged side by side, and in the past, they were the seats of the 3 nascent soul sovereigns. Zhu Yao did not stand on ceremony either, as she immediately sat in the middle seat. However, when she sat down, the other three supremacies did not have the nerve to sit on the same level as her. Thus, the sect leader and the three nascent soul cultivators sat in the seats below. The rest of the Golden Core elders and some of the elite disciples were either sitting or standing behind their masters. Most of the people in the hall had never seen this demigod sovereign who had suddenly appeared. So naturally, they were extremely curious about the matter of her concealing her identity and entering Blue Parasol sect. Although they did not dare to brazenly inquire about it tomorrow, the gazes they were looking at Zhu Yao with, more or less, carried a little curiosity. This was especially so for Lin Xiang, who was following Lin Yu. She was a straightforward person. She had a shocked expression on her face just now and was staring straight at her, as if she had yet to recover from her shock. Sect Master Lin Yu hesitated for a moment. For the benefit of the sect, he had no choice but to thicken his skin and ask, "I wonder what plans His Honor has after this?" Zhu Yao shook her head. Not at the moment. Regarding Yiling's bug, even she herself did not know what was going on. He could only take it one step at a time. Hearing this, Lin Yu's face lit up with joy and he stood up excitedly. "If the Lord doesn't mind, you can always stay in our sect. Although my Blue Parasol sect is a small sect, it can still be considered as a blessed land with mountains and rivers. Furthermore, we have a lot of disciples. If His Honor has any troubles, feel free to instruct us, we will definitely not refuse." He spoke the truth with great sincerity, as if he was extremely afraid that she would not agree. It's not impossible. She had no intention of leaving anyway. Lin Yu instantly became excited, as he persuaded with even more effort. "If His Honor plans to stay in our sect for a long period of time, it would naturally be Blue Parasol sect's greatest fortune. This Lin is untalented, but I'm willing to represent my humble sect to serve His Honor as the Grand Ancestral Master. I hope that Grand Ancestral Master will take good care of our sect and guide our disciples to witness the heavenly Tao together." Ah, what the hell was the Grand Ancestor? Lin Yu did not care whether she understood or not. Instead, he respectfully bowed to her, prostrating himself on the ground. "Disciple Lin Yu, greets Great Ancestral Master." Was this a forceful buying and selling? His bow was like a play button. The disciples behind him followed suit and knelt down, shouting in unison, "Old Ancestor." Even his three nascent soul venerables bowed and said, "Ancestral Master." Zhu Yao, who was being called an ancestor. That why do I feel like I'm several generations older? Was he trying to force a duck onto a perch? She finally knew what Lin Yu was up to. He wanted to keep her in the Blue Parasol sect forever, and treat her like the sect's mascot. On the surface, she was the only soul formation cultivator in the entire cultivation world. In this world where strength was extremely important, it meant that whichever sect roped her in, that sect would immediately be promoted to the most powerful sect. In addition, she had once entered the Blue Parasol sect. No matter if it was for fame or profit, it was impossible for the Blue Parasol sect to give up on a living signboard like her. However, with her strength, it was destined that no one would be able to control her. That was why he used such a method to give her a supreme status, so that she would willingly stay. And he did not hesitate to let go of his dignity as a sect master. Throwing away whatever face he had to raise her high. It wasn't that he didn't want to talk about how he worked hard, and indeed, he was very suitable to be a sect master. He was decisive, flexible, and at times like this he was able to look at the big picture and make the most suitable decision. Zhu Yao began to admire him a little. Zhu Yao waved her sleeves and summoned a gust of wind, instantly lifting up all the people on the ground. "No need to be so courteous. I don't have any intentions of leaving this place. Even if I'm just protecting you, so what?" Zhu Yao said honestly. She came to Blue Parasol sect for the bug. In these few years, though she had been attacked by Yiling's words several times, both in the open and in the dark, and had pulled a huge pile of hatred, in general, she did not cause any actual harm. Though she hated Yiling, she was only targeting her personally. This had nothing to do with Blue Parasol sect. She was very clear about this, and would not vent her anger on the entire sect because of a single person's mistake. Otherwise, she would be no different from those people who would take revenge on society for personal reasons. Back then, when she joined Blue Parasol Sect, she was merely a normal disciple, and Blue Parasol Sect had given her the treatment and protection of a normal disciple. Strictly speaking, they did not mistreat her. Instead, due to her relationship with Ying, they gave her some convenience. Then, what reason did she have to turn her back on them? Lin Yu's eyes instantly shone, as though he never expected that she would actually be so cooperative. But Zhu Yao's tone changed. If there comes a day when I have the intention to leave, none of you will be able to stop me either. There was always a what if in everything. Who knew what would happen in the future? It was fine for her to stay in Blue Parasol Sect, but if she were to touch her bottom line in the future, she would not be merciful either. Of course. Lin Yu understood her meaning, as he nodded with a grand expression. His face was filled with the excitement of having a new mascot to guard the sect. Though, the three nascent soul sovereigns at the side all had different expressions, especially Xian Su. His brows were tightly furrowed, looking as though he wanted to say something, but was desperately holding it in. She could not help but look towards Xian Yin at the side. "Oh right, Sovereign Xian Yin. Yes, what instructions does Ancestral Master have for me?" Xian Yin got into character quickly, as she respectfully bowed. Ying was injured during the beast wave. I brought him back to my place, so he did not return in time. I hope you don't mind. Ying was her disciple after all, so it was still necessary to inform her. Xian Yin was startled, as something flashed past her face. A moment later she replied, "Thank you, Ancestral Master." "Great Ancestral Master." Lin Yu once again came out. 3 days later is an auspicious day. This disciple wishes to send a voice transmission to the various sects to gather here, and officially pay respects to Great Ancestral Master as my sect's Grand Ancestor. I wonder. Lin Yu's face was filled with excitement. Yinren looked as though she wanted to drag her to the various sects and clans, and show off. Zhu Yao immediately rejected it. She still had to take care of Ying? Where would she have the time to accompany her to show off? You heard it as well. My Ying is injured. Let's forget about these mundane matters. Great Ancestral Master, this. Lin Yu was a little disappointed, and still wanted to persuade her. However, Zhu Yao suddenly felt her mind move. The defensive formation outside her courtyard had been broken by someone. She suddenly stood up, and her expression changed. Ying. In an instant, her figure flashed, abandoning the crowd. She flew back to her own courtyard. However, she was stunned by the scene in front of her. A wall of flames that was several meters tall surrounded her entire courtyard, and it crazily spread towards the inside of the house. The flames carried a large amount of spiritual energy, and the restrictions outside the courtyard had long lost their effectiveness. What was left was a burnt smell, and at the center of the courtyard, a large patch of tree roots suddenly appeared, tightly covering the hole where Ying was at. The 2 large trees by the side of the hole had long been ignited, and the tree trunks had already been burnt black. Their leaves had long been completely burnt, and they looked as though they were on the verge of death. However, the tree roots on the hole did not move a single inch. Zhu Yao's heart ached, and in an instant, the fury in her heart surged. She suddenly had the urge to destroy everything. She cast a water-type mystic art, and in an instant, 5 water dragons appeared in the sky, and they immediately pounced towards the wall of flames. Sizzling sounds could be heard everywhere, and the sound of the flames extinguishing could be heard. Seemingly in an instant, the huge flames that soared into the sky had completely disappeared. Great Ancestral Master, just what is this? Lin Yu and the rest rushed over, and when they saw the situation in the courtyard, they were shocked as well. No one knew what had happened. Most importantly, there were no other figures in the surroundings. Zhu Yao did not reply. Looking at the 2 trees that had already been burnt into withered branches, she simply felt her heart clenching. Her hands could not help but tremble as she touched the charred tree trunks. "You're back." A weak and almost inaudible voice sounded. Clearly, it was said with great difficulty, yet it faintly carried a hint of waiting for praise. "I promised to help watch. It's fine. Fruit is fine." In just a few short sentences, as though it had exhausted all of its energy. The tree roots that were tightly entrenched in the courtyard, as though they had lost their power, collapsed. Zhu Yao felt as though her heart was being pierced by a knife. Waves of pain surged, and balls of fury endlessly rose within her, burning her eyes scarlet red. It was as though something had snapped in her mind, and at that moment, she wished that she could peel off the skin and pull out the tendons of the person who set the fire. She immediately released her divine sense and enveloped the entire blue parasol sect. A moment later, she cast an art with a wave of her hand and instantly summoned a bolt of heavenly lightning, which shot towards the back of a mountain rock a few dozen meters away. A thunderous boom resounded, and that gigantic mountain rock instantly turned into ashes. And a man who was evidently heavily injured was currently lying at the bottom of that pit, with blood flowing from his 7 orifices. Mulu, Yiling exclaimed, as she recognized the person over there. He was the 9-tailed fox Mulu she met in the labyrinth back then. Mulu's expression changed. That bolt of heavenly lightning earlier had instantly scattered his cultivation, and he was barely able to sit up with all his might. Panting heavily, he looked towards Zhu Yao. He looked at her in horror. Since when did she become so powerful? You're the one who set the fire, Zhu Yao said with certainty, and not as a question. Mulu's entire body trembled, and he instinctively felt fear. No, it's not me. I just happened to arrive here. Happened? The remnant fire spiritual aura on your body is exactly the same as the fire wall. You call this a coincidence? He was the one who set the fire. Zhu Yao walked towards him. You're spouting nonsense. Mulu's expression changed. I basically have no reason to burn your house. Reason? Zhu Yao coldly laughed. The rage in her heart was burning to the point where she could barely find her rationality. I don't care about your reason. If I want to take your life, similarly, I don't need a reason either. His expression changed as he turned around, wanting to flee. Zhu Yao immediately released her pressure, firmly locking him on the spot. She immediately materialized countless spiritual swords. Mulu was startled. He wanted to defend himself, but his dantian had long been shattered, and he was basically unable to use any spiritual energy. He could only watch as those spiritual swords pierced through his chest one after another. In an instant, Mulu's screams could be heard endlessly. You. Mulu only had a single breath left. Glaring at her indignantly, he fiercely said, So what if I did it? Who asked you to treat Linger like this? I just hate the fact that I didn't burn you to death as well. His words immediately stepped on Zhu Yao's explosive point. Without holding back any longer, a spiritual sword instantly shattered the demonic core in his body. Mulu instantly reverted to his original form, a white 9-tailed fox. With a twist of Zhu Yao's hand, the longsword formed from the ruling plume appeared in her hand. Stopping next to the white fox, she coldly said, I heard that the 9-tailed race is born with intelligence, and is the king of demons. They can only transform into a single tail every 100 years, and can only transform after 1,000 years. With a swing of her sword, she instantly severed all 8 of his tails. In an instant, the entire blue parasol sect resounded with Mulu's screams. However, Zhu Yao simply watched on. The rage in the depths of her heart could not be suppressed no matter what. Even his screams were especially irritating to her. Not enough. He had killed those 2 trees, and he had even almost harmed Yuing. How could these few slashes be enough? That urge to destroy grew even clearer. She subconsciously raised her sword, wanting to end this fox who was constantly screaming miserably. Yu Yao. A clear and low voice resounded in her mind, as though a bucket of ice water had poured down on her head. Her figure paused, and the rage that was about to surge out of her body earlier slowly dissipated. Master, she stood there blankly for a long while. After taking a deep breath, she finally calmed down completely. She then glanced at the fox who had already fainted on the ground. A hint of doubt flashed past her eyes, before she turned around and walked back. Glancing at Lin Yu and Yi Ling at the side, her expression sank, and she coldly said, Sect Master Lin, you have to give me an explanation for this matter. After saying that, without waiting for his reply, she immediately walked back into the courtyard. With a wave of her hand, She placed down layers of formations. Suddenly, the ground beneath her feet began to shake. Everyone flew up with their swords, and the ground began to crack inch by inch. Within a radius of a few kilometers around the courtyard Zhu Yao was staying in, as though they were being supported by some sort of energy, they separated from the mountain and slowly rose. They floated past the mountain peak and rose into the air. A ray of formation light flashed, and a layer of transparent barrier was instantly added onto that floating mountain which had formed its own world. Lin Yu's face was ashen. It seemed like this lord was truly angry. He had initially thought that Blue Parasol sect had obtained a huge backer and would become the #1 sect in the cultivation world from then on. However, he never expected that not long after he stayed, he had already offended someone. He could not help but glare at Yi Ling a little resentfully, just as he was about to ask that fox demon called Mu Lu just what was going on. However, the latter's face was ashen as well. Zhu Yao placed down a few spiritual energy gathering formations in the courtyard, and then injected a large amount of wood spiritual energy into the two trees. Seeing that the charred tree trunks were slowly regaining some life force, she heaved a sigh of relief. The life force of trees was strong in the first place. Although they were severely damaged right now, as long as they were given time, they would still grow back. Wildfire cannot burn, spring wind blows, and they will grow again. In a moment of anger earlier, she basically did not think of this point. Recalling what happened earlier, Zhu Yao's heart sank. Even she herself could not understand why she was so impulsive. Furthermore, that uncontrollable anger made her feel a little flustered. That feeling was as though her entire being was being controlled by anger. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that something was amiss. She hurriedly isolated the entire place, placed down layers of restrictions, and then entered the house with a restless look. Chapter 222. A white light flashed in front of her eyes, and sesame flew out from her divine sense. Raising its hand, it passed her a white pearl. Master here. What is this? Just as she took it, a white figure floated out. It was her master, Zhu Yao. When did her master become a portable version again? The main point was, why was it in Sesame's hands? He turned around and glared at her. What did you do to my master? Sesame shrunk its head and said with grievance. His honor didn't allow me to tell you. It's none of my business. Master. Back then, I sensed that something was amiss with your divine sense, so I left a strand of divine sense with Sesame. Yu Yan replied without a hint of redness or panting, as though he completely did not have the self-awareness of peeking at his disciple's divine sense. Where is your sense of shame? Master, just now I... Forget it. Who asked him to be her master? Yu Yan frowned. How did you feel back then? Anger. Zhu Yao honestly replied. A kind of anger that cannot be suppressed. Yu Yao, back then, your divine sense was filled with a sea of flames. Ah. Was it that serious? Will my emotions affect my divine sense? On the contrary. Yu Yan's expression sank. It's your divine sense that's affecting your emotions. What do you mean? Was it because of her divine sense that she lost her mind in anger? Yu Yao. He sighed. What was inside your divine sense back then? What do you have? Of course. Other than Sesame and you, there's only... She suddenly widened her eyes. Ruling plume. Yu Yan nodded. Ruling feathers are the feathers of phoenixes, and all phoenixes are born with the fire attribute. It's affecting my emotions. Zhu Yao took out the ruling plume and looked at it from top to bottom. Are all fire types very violent? It shouldn't be like this if it's just because of its attributes. Yu Yan glanced at the ruling feather, and his expression sank a little. If Master did not guess wrongly, the reason why you're affected by it is because this feather carries the evil aura of the original owner when he was alive. Evil aura? Weren't phoenixes part of the divine race? Why would there be hostility? This feather was not taken down by the phoenixes themselves. Instead, it was left behind when the original owner passed away. That was why the original owner's emotions were affected. Zhu Yao was startled. Emotions before one's death? In other words, the owner of the feather was already dead. And the only race that could kill the god race was the demon race. No wonder she felt so angry and had the urge to destroy everything. The hatred of the god race towards the devil race was deep in their blood. If that phoenix was really killed by the demon race, it was normal for it to have a hostile aura. Looks like I can't use this weapon anymore. It wasn't easy for him to pick up a powerful weapon, but he couldn't use it. How sad. Remember not to put this thing into your divine sense again. Yu Yan had no choice but to once again remind his stupid disciple. Divine sense is where your lifeline lies. In the future, without absolute confidence, do not place miscellaneous items inside. He made it sound like she was using her divine sense as a storage pouch. Alright, it was a little similar. Then what should we do with this weapon? As a divine weapon, it was impossible to destroy it. It couldn't be used, and it didn't even have the qualifications to be a decoration. Why did she pick it up in the first place? You can keep it for now. It won't be too late to discuss it after we find a way to destroy it. That was all they could do now. Zhu Yao placed the ruling plume into the storage bracelet she carried with her. Just in case, she even added a seal on it. In the next few days, Zhu Yao lived very leisurely. Other than guarding Yuing, washing the two trees, and injecting spiritual energy into them, she did not have any other work to do. The two trees had already recovered quite a bit. The tree bark that was burnt black back then had already fallen off, revealing the newly grown brown tree trunks. Green buds were beginning to emerge from the branches as well. Although they had yet to speak, not long later, they would completely recover. Yu Ying's condition was very good as well, and he was faintly showing signs of transforming. Sometimes, when she was guarding at the side, he would even call out Big Sis Yao in a sweet voice. His voice was clear and crisp, and it was exactly the same as the child's voice when he first transformed back then. It seemed like at the very least, he had already recovered to the state he had when he was an essence practitioner back then. She wondered if it was because she raised the courtyard, but no one from Blue Parasol sect came to disturb her. Only after 3 months did someone finally come knocking on her door. This person was none other than Xian Su. Due to his relationship with Yi Ling, Zhu Yao did not have a good impression of this person. Evidently, Xian Su did not really like her either. Ever since he appeared, he had a cold expression as he stared straight at her with a resentful look. Zhu Yao could not be bothered with him, as she leisurely watered the two trees in the courtyard. Xian Su flew on his sword and waited in the air for a moment. Seeing that she completely did not have the intention to remove the formation and let him in, his expression sank, and he spoke. Disciple Xian Su requests an audience with Ancestral Master. Only then did Zhu Yao remove the formation and let him in. Xian Su landed a few steps behind her, and the resentful look on his face grew even heavier. Gritting his teeth, he unwillingly bowed and said, "The matter back then was this disciple's fault, which resulted in a calamity and offended Ancestral Master. I beg for Ancestral Master's forgiveness." So he was here to apologize on behalf of Yi Ling. Actually, when she forced Lin Yu to give her an explanation when the courtyard was burnt back then, it was merely a casual remark out of anger. She did not really have the intention to do anything to them. In her heart, she understood that this matter actually did not have much to do with anyone else. The main culprit was Mulu, and he had received a lesson as well. However, since you're apologizing with such sincerity, then this matter can be considered resolved. However, Zhu Yao glanced at him. The calamity your disciple has provoked is not just a single one. Xian Su's expression paled. Evidently, he knew of the men behind Yi Ling's Mary Sue. Thinking about it, this Xian Su was rather pitiful. He truly liked Yi Ling. However, he was a little unlucky. The person he fell in love with was a wild horse, and was destined to have a field of grass on his head. Ancestral Master, why must you make things difficult for me? Xian Su suddenly flared up. Who's making things difficult for you? I'm just reminding you out of goodwill, alright? Xian Su clenched his fists, as though he was trying his best to suppress something. After a while he said, I have long known of Ling Er's feelings, but what other choice do I have? That's her own thoughts, and I can't force her to fall in love with me. What did he mean? Didn't the two of you have a thing going on since a long time ago? What's with this resentful tone? Xiansu, however, looked as though he had finally found someone to talk to, as he poured out all of the emotions he had been suppressing for a long time. The only thing I can do is to stay by her side with the identity of her master. Forever, I can only silently look at her. Even if that's the case, I'm still happy. But you. Clearly, you possess much more than me, so why must you treat her like this? What did I do? Why did she feel that this cold and aloof person had instantly become poor? Had he gone mad? It's precisely because you didn't do anything, yet, you easily obtained the thing that we yearn for in our dreams. That's why we feel even more pain. So it was her fault whether she did it or not. I have already given up, and will no longer hope that she will turn back. I only hope that someone can treat her a little better. Not to say that they can love her like a pearl or a treasure, but at the very least, they can't make her sad. After saying that, he even glanced at her. What do you mean? Please, can you speak like a human? Why did you suddenly become hysterical? Ancestral Master, I don't care what you're thinking, but at the very least, don't be so heartless, all right? Xiansu said with a pained expression. At the very least, meet her. Meet who? Speak clearly, hey. Mulu's matter has nothing to do with her, and she only found out about it after the fact. Please do not vent your anger on her. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Why am I getting even more confused the more you speak? I wish Ancestral Master all the best. Xiansu's expression turned cold, and in an instant, as though he was filled with rage, he said with emphasis on every single word. Ling is infatuated with you. Please do not let down the feelings she has for you. Zhu Yao was startled for a moment. His final few words constantly echoed in her mind. Feelings. 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 Who? Yiling. Flips table. Who cares about her feelings? Xiansu's brain must have gone haywire, right? So you're here to act as a matchmaker for Yiling, but I'm a woman, hey. Are you blind? Xiansu, however, remained unmoved, and said with a determined look. I respect Linger's choice. Respect my ass. Shouldn't you resist this kind of abnormal relationship to the very end? What happened to your most basic integrity as a straight man? Also, why is it her? Wake up a little, hey. I don't have the slightest bit of interest towards Yiling. Xiansu frowned. How can you be like this? Linger treats you so well? Good my ass. Zhu Yao was about to go berserk. How is she good to me? She's always pulling hatred for me, alright? What happened before was Linger's fault. That's because she didn't manage to sort out her feelings for you. That's why she's always targeting you. Even a ghost wouldn't believe such logic, okay? True love is innocent. Scram. Don't insult true hobbies, right? No matter what. In any case, Xiansu's expression was conflicted. He clenched his teeth and said bitterly, From now on, I'll leave Linger to you. If you dare to betray her, even if it's going against your superiors, I won't let you off. After speaking, he ran off madly while sobbing, looking like a lovelorn youth. Zhu Yao, that what just happened? Xiansu, come back here. What do you mean by leave it to me? What has it got to do with me? And what's with that lovelorn expression? Aren't you supposed to be cold and aloof? Why did the style change? The situation was changing too quickly, and she needed a buffer. Just how in the world did Yiling become so loyal to her? The main point was that she seemed to have convinced the harem members as well. If one were to say that all of this was due to the influence of the world-favorable impression ability back then, however, she had already deactivated it now. Sesame had already seen it twice, and she didn't see it go crazy. Sesame. She immediately called out the person in question. Meow, a ray of light flashed in front of her, and Sesame, who was dressed in a white robe, instantly appeared in front of her. Zhu Yao sized him up for a moment. He conformed to the norm, and his expression was very normal. Chapter 223. Mistress. Sesame looked straight at her, its expression sank, and a moment later, it turned into an infatuated look. You're such a peerless beauty. Sesame wants to hug your thigh at any given moment, and give birth to a nest of monkeys for you. Ouch! Before he could finish his sentence, a blood-curdling scream rang out. Lightning flashed across his body, instantly turning him charred black. Sesame resentfully spat out a mouthful of black smoke and waved the pearl in his hand, which was still flashing with lightning. That's it. It wasn't that he didn't want to, it was mainly because someone was monitoring him. After saying that, he returned to her divine sense with an ashen face. That pearl belonged to Master. Did Sesame hold back from going crazy because of her master? In other words, the effect of world favorable impression was continuous. This world is so scary. Master, hurry and bring me back to Mars. She dreamed of large groups of demonic beasts chasing after her, crying and shouting that they wanted to give birth to monkeys for her. She ran with all her might, but the more she ran, the more demonic beasts chased after her. In the end, she was forced into a dead end. Fortunately, a god descended from the heavens and saved her. Just as she was about to thank the other party, that person turned around and raised Yiling's face. Her smile was overflowing with gentleness, and she affectionately said, "They're all males, only I can give birth to monkeys for you." Zhu Yao woke up from shock. Even if she was beaten to death, she would never be a lesbian. With cold sweat all over his body, he silently went to reinforce a circle of the formation. After confirming that even nascent soul practitioners would not be able to barge in, Zhu Yao heaved a sigh of relief. She wondered how long the effect of world favorable impression would last, and Yiling was still an unresolved bug. Although she did not wish to see her, she would still occasionally release her divine sense to understand what was happening in the sect. Then she would peacefully stay in the courtyard. She stayed in the courtyard for 5 years. Yuing had already transformed, but he never came out of the hole, as though he was in deep sleep. The 2 trees at the side were already flourishing with leaves. In these few years, Yiling did not do anything that would trigger a bug at all. It was as though she had changed into a different person. She no longer had a harem surrounding her, and she even seemed to have lost interest in something as technical as pretending to be a white lotus. Instead, she began to cultivate seriously. After 5 years, the number of people in her harem did not increase, but actually decreased. Even Lan Qi and Qi Ping were no longer following her closely like before. It was as if the Mary Sue halo had suddenly been dispelled, and she was becoming more and more like a good woman. The change was so huge that even Zhu Yao could not believe her own eyes. Other than the word bug on her face, she was even suspecting if she had taken the wrong script. In the first year, she would often ride her sword and wander around her courtyard, trying to break through the formation. She often carried all kinds of things in her hands, such as embroidered handkerchiefs, pendants, and accessories. He looked like he wanted to give her a token of love. Zhu Yao was so frightened that she had to reinforce the formation several times. Gradually, she came less and less often. Perhaps she knew that Zhang Xian was on guard against her, so she didn't try to break the formation. Instead, she hovered in the air on her sword for an hour before heading back. Zhu Yao attributed this phenomenon to the influence of the world favorable impression ability, which was currently slowly recovering. Before long, she would become the Mary Sue in his mind, right? Amen. It should be. Actually, Zhu Yao could not understand why the word bug on Yiling's face had yet to disappear. Logically speaking, the reason why she was a bug was completely because of Lin Qi. Lin Qi had already dealt with it. The reason why she caused the world's destruction no longer existed, so why was she still a bug? Unless her bug had nothing to do with Lin Qi at all. She had once recalled the scenario countless times, and faintly felt that something was amiss, but she could not figure out what it was. Yet, she kept having the feeling that a storm was brewing, until the barrier that separated the demonic beast continent suddenly collapsed. A hint of red light flashed across the sky, and not long later, as though a huge hole had been torn open, a layer of transparent barrier began to shatter, and then, it completely disappeared. The spiritual energy in the air suddenly became much denser than before. Lin Yu anxiously sent a voice transmission to her, telling her about the disappearance of the barrier. Zhu Yao removed the formation, and immediately headed to the Great Hall, wanting to clarify things. However, no one knew why the barrier had suddenly disappeared. According to the disciples at the front lines, although the barrier has disappeared, There was no beast tide, and no demonic beasts entered the human practitioner's territory. Demonic beasts have always been undisciplined, so it's very normal for them to not come. Back then, she had told those demonic beasts to not come to the human practitioner's territory for no reason. What she was worried about was not the demonic beasts, but the devil that was controlling the demonic beasts. No matter what, I will first head to the borders to take a look. Logically speaking, the formation core of that formation had already been repaired when she was teaching Lin Qi a lesson back then. Why did it still collapse? With Great Ancestral Master personally heading there, I can be at ease. Lin Yu was evidently waiting for her to say this, and he instantly heaved a huge sigh of relief. He was just short of waving his hands to urge her on her way. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched, and she silently felt a little stifled in her heart. Although she had the title of Ancestral Master, there was no need to use it so thoroughly, right? Is it possible for me to send a disciple to accompany you? Lin Yu was still considered to have a conscience. No need. Zhu Yao immediately rejected. If you guys are here, it will instead be troublesome. Currently, she was the only one who was familiar with that formation. If she didn't go, then who would? Just as she was about to turn around and fly on her sword, Yiling suddenly walked out. Great Ancestral Master. Zhu Yao's footsteps paused. Recalling that evil favorable impression ability, she reflexively took a step back. This Mary Sue couldn't be thinking of going crazy again, right? Seeing her actions, Yiling's face, which was initially filled with hope, paled for an instant. She clenched her fists, and the corner of her lips twitched. Unexpectedly, she merely said a single sentence. Be careful on the road. Then, she obediently retreated behind Xian Su, and tightly buried her head. Zhu Yao was confused. She felt that there was something strange about her, but she did not pay too much attention to it, and immediately flew away. Before she left, she released Sesame, and chased him back to the small courtyard. Ying had yet to wake up, so she did not wish for something like the previous time to happen again. Just when she was about to arrive, her master's voice suddenly resounded in her mind. Yao, make a trip to my place. Zhu Yao was startled, and suddenly, she felt a little flustered. Master, what's wrong? This place of mine. Yu Yan stopped halfway through his words and sighed. You will know once you arrive. Zhu Yao did not hesitate, as she immediately turned around and headed to her master's place. When she was still a few kilometers away from her master's ruins, she felt a scorching aura in the air. It was as though the ground had been set ablaze, and the temperature had suddenly risen. When she arrived, she realized that the ground was actually on fire. It was as though someone had set fire to the forest, as the entire place was filled with a charred smell. Something red and yellow was flowing on the ground, and when she took a closer look, she realized that it was actually lava. It was as though a volcano was erupting beneath the ground, as scalding volcanic rocks continuously surged out. Zhu Yao took a closer look, and saw that the place where the lava was surging out was right below the ruins. Back then, when the ruins rose, a huge crater was left behind. Currently, the crater was filled with lava that was constantly surging out. The huge heat roasted the floating ruins above, causing the soil to fall off with a rustling sound. In a short while, the entire ruins would be roasted into nothingness. What was going on? It was clearly a forest, so why did it suddenly turn into a volcano? Master! Zhu Yao immediately entered that mustard seed dimensional space, only to see that the space which was still clear earlier had suddenly turned blood red, and right above, a gigantic teleportation formation was currently flashing with light. Yu Yan stood below the formation and turned his head. It's here. What's this? Zhu Yao pointed to the formation above. If it was just a teleportation formation, then this was a little too big, wasn't it? Back then, when the demonic beast's barrier disappeared, this formation appeared. Yu Yan frowned. Most probably, the two formations here are connected. As long as one formation is destroyed, the other will activate. Then what's with the lava outside? It should be due to this formation as well. This array formation directly transported the lava outside? Then the other side of the teleportation formation couldn't be a volcano, right? This formation has been laid down for a long time, and it's hidden extremely well. If it doesn't activate, it's basically impossible to detect. Yu Yan said with a sunken voice. Most probably, be it this ruins or that god's artifact, they're all there to protect the item on the other side of this formation. Just what's on the other side? Was there a need to spend so much effort to hide it? I don't know either. Yu Yan shook his head and sighed. When this formation appeared, this place began to collapse. It won't be long before this ruin disappears. If the formation doesn't stop, I'm afraid the entire cultivation world will be implicated. It's that serious. Can't we stop this formation? Unless we know the location on the other side. Then let's go in and take a look, and see just where we'll be teleported to. This formation can sense a person's cultivation level. When your master enters, I'll be immediately bounced back. In other words, the higher your cultivation level is, the more you won't be able to enter? Yu Yan nodded. Then I'll go take a look. Yu Yao. Yu Yan pulled his disciple over, lowered his head, and placed it on the center of her forehead. In an instant, a refreshing aura instantly entered her divine sense, and gathered into that white pearl from before. That place is most likely very dangerous. Half of your master's divine sense will follow you in. Remember, after you pass through the formation, only take out the pearl. Zhu Yao nodded, and then flew towards the formation on her flying sword. She turned to glance at Yu Yan, who was standing in the same spot. Only then did she directly pass through the formation. However, with a flash of red light, the scenery in front of her changed. Her surroundings were covered in darkness, and there was a faint red glow in the surroundings. However, she was still unable to see the scenery clearly, though it was even hotter than before. Master! She lightly called out. A white illusory figure appeared next to her. Master, where do you think this is? Yu Yan did not reply. Instead, a ray of light materialized from his fingertip, and in an instant, the surroundings lit up. Chapter 224. Yu Yan frowned. Reaching out his hand, he pulled onto his disciple at the side, and habitually said with a cold voice, "Follow your master closely." With her master here, Zhu Yao obediently became a little tail, and followed closely behind. The further she went, the hotter the air became, and the steeper the passage became. Towards the end, she almost had to use her hands and feet to climb up. More and more liquid lava was flowing down the wall. Zhu Yao faintly sensed that there was something in front of her, but after walking for a long while, she was still unable to reach the end. Suddenly, a gurgling sound came from the front, like the sound of water. Zhu Yao was shocked. What's that? Yu Yan shook his head. I don't know either. There should be a special incantation placed here, preventing my divine sense from spreading out. Just follow me and you'll be fine. Then why do we have to go this way? It's hard to climb, okay? Yu Yan's footsteps paused, as though he had just thought of this problem. A moment later, he said with a stern look, Yu Yao, believe in your master. Fine, you're the master. As his disciple, I should trust him. My ass. Zhu Yao's expression darkened as she looked at the surging fiery red in front of her. Master, is it volcanic rock that's rushing over from the front? Yes. What now? Yu Yan did not reply, and simply picked up his disciple. Turning around, he flew in the direction he came from. Following closely behind was a large amount of lava that was pouring towards them. No wonder there was uncooled magma everywhere along the way. This was not a tunnel at all, but a waterway specially used to pass through magma. But just now they had rushed forward head-on. Didn't you say that you would be fine if you followed Master? What happened to believing in you? Can't there be some basic trust between master and disciple? Zhu Yao's heart was filled with sour tears. It turned out that not only was master face-blind, he was also directionless. Yu Yan flew extremely quickly. Even in this narrow space, it only took him a blink of an eye. He shook off the lava behind him. Not long after, he reached the exit and flew out. However, an even hotter aura came rushing at him. The entire place was filled with fiery red magma, illuminating the entire space with a dazzling fiery red. It was like the bottom of a volcano. The magma was rolling and bubbling, emitting bubbling sounds. However, above their heads, it was just a thick stone wall. This place seemed to have been specially dug out. The area was the size of 10 football fields, but it was filled with magma. No one knew how deep it was. What's that? Yu Yan suddenly spoke. Zhu Yao followed his gaze and looked over. In the middle of the lava, there was a platform, and there was an object placed steadily on it. It was a round ball. It was suffused with white light. Upon closer inspection, it turned out to be an egg, a super huge egg. It was at least the size of a dozen people. Just as Yu Yan was about to bring them closer to investigate, his figure suddenly shook, and he stopped about 10 meters away. There's a formation set up in the surroundings. In other words, he couldn't get through. Zhu Yao carefully inspected that egg, and the more she looked at it, the more familiar she felt it to be. I presume the various abnormalities we encountered all along the way were caused by this egg. Yu Yan said in a low voice. I wonder what it is. I might know. Zhu Yao weakly raised one of her claws. Eggs. It needed to be incubated by the lava of a volcano, and it was even able to set up so many formations. All of these coincidences pointed to a single answer. This is a dragon egg. However, its size was rather large. Could it be that its nutrition was especially good? Yu Yan was startled for a moment as well, but he agreed with this explanation. If it was a god, then that sword and that strange formation, everything made sense. It seems like this dragon is about to hatch its shell, Yu Yan said in a low voice. That's why various abnormalities appeared in the ruins. Hatch! Zhu Yao was startled, and suddenly recalled that devil. Gods and devils had always been sworn enemies. Lin Qi did not have his life origin fire, so he could no longer be considered a god. So, another god had to appear to balance things out? Wait a minute. Dragons had always been difficult to breed, and hatching was even harder. It seemed like this dragon egg had been here for a very long time. Furthermore, gods had always suppressed demonic beasts with their bloodline, making them unable to resist. However, this dragon egg had appeared in the territory of human practitioners. Adding that barrier, could she interpret it as the reason why the barrier existed in the beginning was to defend against the devil, and to protect this dragon egg? Now that the barrier had disappeared, it was definitely the doing of the devil. Then the first thing the devil would do after breaking the barrier would definitely be. Zhu Yao instantly sucked in a cold breath. Master, this place. It's very dangerous. Before she could even finish, Yu Yan's expression turned cold, as he pulled her behind him. Someone's coming. The moment his voice fell, a violent gust of wind blew. The space, which was initially fiery red, distorted for a moment, as though it was suddenly split open from the middle. A black hole appeared, and a large cloud of black devilish aura floated out from within. A moment later, the figures of two men appeared in the air. One of them looked unfamiliar, but the dark and cold aura emitted from his body was clearly that of a devil. And the other one was actually Lin Qi. Oh, I never expected that human practitioners could actually enter this place. That devil coldly glanced over, and when he clearly saw Zhu Yao, he seemed to be startled for a moment. His smile grew even more sinister. Oh, so it's you. The person who stole my god's artifact. Zhu Yao was stunned. This was the devil who controlled the beast wave back then. You. Why are you here? Lin Qi evidently recognized Zhu Yao as well, as he took a step back a little out of fear. I should be asking you this. Zhu Yao looked at the two of them. As a descendant of a god, why are you colluding with the devil? Lin Qi's expression paled, and his embarrassment turned into anger. This has nothing to do with you. Back then, if not for you, how could I have ended up in such a sorry state? No matter what, I will definitely take revenge for this. What's the hurry? I have a debt to settle with this person as well. That devil coldly laughed, as he looked at Zhu Yao. Today it won't be the same as last time easily. There was a loud boom. A bolt of heavenly lightning instantly struck towards him. If you want to fight, then fight. Stop spouting so much nonsense. Why were antagonists always so long-winded? You're courting death. The devil's expression sank. In a flash, he charged towards Zhu Yao to attack. Yu Yan's figure turned, as he quickly blocked in front of Zhu Yao. A sword aura carrying a lightning glow instantly scattered the other party's attack. The devil was startled, as though he had never expected that someone would be able to block his attack. His expression turned even darker, and devilish energy flowed out from his body. Turning his head, he waved his hand at Lin Qi. "Go get it." Lin Qi hurriedly headed in the direction of the dragon egg. "Lin Qi." Zhu Yao immediately sent a bolt of lightning over. "That's a dragon egg. Are you sure you want to hand the god over to the devil?" "Dragon?" Lin Qi was startled, as he fiercely turned his head to stare at the devil. "How can it be a dragon egg? You lied to me. It's already too late to know now." He suddenly struck his palm towards Lin Qi, and in an instant, a large amount of devilish energy instantly surrounded him. The luster in Lin Qi's eyes slowly disappeared, and not even a moment later, they turned crimson red. "Go get the egg." After saying that, his figure flashed, and he attacked Yu Yan with all his might. "Careful." Yu Yan turned his head and instructed Zhu Yao, before charging forward. In an instant, two rays of light, one black and one white, intertwined with each other. Lin Qi, however, was like a wooden puppet, as he flew towards the dragon egg. Zhu Yao summoned her fan weapon and flew in front of him. With a wave of her hand, she materialized hundreds of bolts of lightning and attacked. However, those bolts of lightning simply passed through, and were basically unable to hit Lin Qi. His entire body turned into black smoke, and he directly passed by Zhu Yao. Zhu Yao was startled. Without a physical body, Lin Qi was controlled by the devilish energy. When the black smoke was 10 meters away from the dragon egg, a ray of white light was suddenly blocked. It was the barrier from before. Zhu Yao hurried over, and once again materialized a bolt of lightning and struck towards Lin Qi. Although it instantly dispersed the surrounding devilish energy, it once again condensed into a new form. Furthermore, it began to wildly attack the barrier. If this continued, it would be broken sooner or later. Zhu Yao gritted her teeth, and immediately circulated her spiritual energy, activating a sealing art. In an instant, ancient runes began to surface around her body. Forcefully activating the god race's seal with spiritual energy, she seemed to immediately feel the backlash of spiritual energy. Her internal organs and divine sense began to ache as though they were being torn apart. Yu Yan noticed the commotion here, and wanted to rush over. However, he was being held back by the devil, and was basically unable to advance an inch. "Hurry and stop." The dragon egg's barrier had already begun to collapse, and Lin Qi, who had turned into a devil, was about to enter. Zhu Yao immediately activated the seal. A golden talisman instantly enveloped Lin Qi, and it began to spin at an extreme speed. A large amount of black devilish energy instantly flowed out from his body, disappearing into the golden seal. Lin Qi fell straight down as well, landing on a stone platform. "You actually know an ancient sealing art." The devil's expression sank, and the killing intent in his eyes grew even stronger. "Then all the more reason why I can't let you live." After saying that, he began to attack Yu Yan even more crazily. Zhu Yao puked out a mouthful of blood. Holding on to her breath, she landed on the stone platform of the dragon egg. Raising her head, she looked towards the sky. Her master and the devil's figures could no longer be seen clearly, and only two streaks of light could be seen. The entire space was filled with rumbling thunder. Devilish energy constantly flew about, and the magma was even affected by the mystic arts, causing sparks to fly everywhere. Her master's original body was not here, and currently, he was merely half a divine sense. However, the opponent was a true devil. If this continued, they would definitely lose. What should they do? At a time like this, it would be great if they had an external helper. An external helper. Zhu Yao turned to look at the dragon egg at the side, and suddenly recalled that she seemed to have heard Xiao Bai mention in the past. When a dragon was born, as long as it absorbed enough heat, it would be fine. If it was just heat, Zhu Yao suddenly recalled that feather. The heat of a phoenix was definitely higher than that of magma. If she used that god's artifact, and added with the life origin fire she obtained from Lin Qi, she might be able to let this dragon hatch earlier. Without any hesitation, she immediately took out the ruling plume. Circulating her spiritual energy, she instantly materialized a sword of flames. Zhu Yao took a deep breath and slowly transferred her sword intent into the sword. A moment later, the flames on the sword turned purple. She waved her hand, and in an instant, the surroundings of the egg began to burn with purple flames. Chapter 225. Half a quarter of an hour later, there was finally some movement from the egg. A powerful pressure came from within, and it began to shake, as if something was about to break out of the shell. When the devil saw this, the devilish aura on his body surged, forming a large mass of devilish aura and striking towards Zhu Yao. Yu Yan turned around and rushed over. With a swing of his sword, he dispersed the devilic aura. However, it was already too late for him to defend himself, as a longsword formed from devilic aura directly pierced through his body. The originally illusory figure trembled, and blood started to appear on its snow-white clothes. Master! Zhu Yao suddenly widened her eyes, her heart instantly tightened as she held on to him. That familiar anger surged up, and for a moment, she just wanted to rush forward and fight that devil. It's fine. Yu Yan's figure blurred for a moment. Pulling onto Zhu Yao's hand, he solemnly said, I will hold this devil back. Bring the egg, and return to the mustard seed dimensional space through that path. But master, that egg was so big, how was she supposed to bring it into the passage? Listen to me. Yu Yan's expression sank. Nothing will happen to me. Only a ghost would believe that. There were bloodstains on his body, which proved that his master, who was in the space, was also injured. He couldn't hold on for much longer. None of you will escape. The demon sneered. Immediately, hundreds of black icicles appeared and attacked the two of them. Hurry and leave. With a sweep of his sword, Yu Yan instantly opened up a path, and he once again attacked the devil. Zhu Yao took a deep breath, suppressing the anger that was about to go out of control in the depths of her heart. She knew that this was the influence of the ruling plume. She had to calm down. So he increased the flames next to the dragon egg. Glancing at the two people in the sky, he gritted his teeth and decided to go all out. Now, even if he retraced his steps, he might not be able to escape. He might as well take a gamble. Calming his heart, he took a deep breath and channeled his spiritual energy. As Zhang Xian increased the output of his spiritual energy, the egg began to shake, showing signs of cracking. However, the devil's eyes sank. Suddenly, it split into two, forming another illusory figure that flew straight towards Zhu Yao. Damn, I can only take it head-on. Zhu Yao circulated the spiritual energy in her entire body. He turned into flames and charged at the dragon egg. I must catch up. The demons were getting closer and closer. Just as it was about to hit her, suddenly he heard a light cracking sound. Zhu Yao's heart completely relaxed. Then, a dragon's roar resounded through the clouds. A beam of golden light soared into the sky, directly breaking through this huge space, and the top began to collapse. The rocks and soil were falling down, and in a short while, it was as if the top had been completely dug out, revealing the original blue sky. And the phantom of the devil race was also affected by that dragon roar. He disappeared without a trace. This place is going to collapse. Zhu Yao casually scooped up Lin Qi, who was at the side, and flew out while feeling as though her entire body was being torn apart. Only after exiting the place full of lava did he find out. It turned out that this place was right below the ruins of his master. In other words, that place just now might be the third layer of the ruins. The dragon's roar became even louder, and a huge azure dragon circled twice in the sky. On the other hand, the devil's body became unsteady, and his face twisted. He stared at the sky. The giant dragon's figure flashed. In an instant, he transformed into a purple-robed man. His body exuded a luxurious aura, but he was frowning as he looked at the demons in front of him. Aojiang, I didn't expect you to still be alive. The devil snorted coldly, his eyes filled with cold killing intent. As long as the devil race is not eradicated, the devil race will be destroyed. How can my god race perish? Aojiang released the pressure on his body and glared back fiercely. The ancient devil race is destined to not exist in this world. This is the heavenly Tao. Neither you nor I can resist. Lao Ai's face twisted even more and he sneered. Do you think you're my match now? So what if you hide back in your eggshell and regain your divine power? Ao Jiang, you couldn't beat me in the past, and it's the same now. Whether I can win or not, we'll know once we try. Ao Jiang's figure flashed and instantly transformed into a giant dragon, attacking the devil. Could it be that these two were acquaintances? He had thought that there was a baby dragon in the dragon egg, but it turned out to be an old dragon that was recuperating in the egg. No wonder it was so big. Master. Zhu Yao found a safe place and placed Lin Qi down, before flying towards Yu Yan. Yu Yan raised his head and looked at the ruins which were almost completely collapsed, and solemnly said, Yu Yao, shatter that pearl in your divine sense. Zhu Yao was startled, and instantly understood. She immediately took out that pearl, and with a clench of her fist, the white pearl turned into dust. Yu Yan's figure swayed for a moment, and in an instant, he turned into a ray of light and flew back to his main body. The battle between the dragon and the devil was especially intense, and the scene could not even be described as a landslide. Zhu Yao had to be extremely careful in order to not be affected. But even so, the devil did not fall into a disadvantageous position at all. Instead, he was locked in a battle with the dragon. Just as Zhu Yao was worried, the sky suddenly darkened. Dozens of purple heavenly lightning bolts descended from the sky, directly striking in the direction of the devil. The devil bowed and dodged with all his might, but he was still affected by the lightning bolts. The devilish aura on his body was instantly dispersed by quite a bit, and his aura was beginning to grow unstable as well. Evidently, he was heavily injured. Her master's figure instantly appeared in the sky. This time, it was no longer half a divine sense, but his main body. Zhu Yao silently gave him a thumbs up. Like, far ancient high god. Ao Jiang was startled, as he fiercely looked at Yu Yan with widened eyes. His face was filled with disbelief. High god, how can you? No, wait, you don't have a god's imprint on you, just what are you? Yu Yan did not have the time to care about him, as he once again summoned the heavenly lightning bolts and sent them towards Bayan. He did not have much time left, as the tribulation clouds in the sky had already begun to gather. In a moment, the ascension lightning tribulation would descend, and at that time, he would have no choice but to ascend to the higher realm. Yu Yao. Master? Zhu Yao suddenly received a voice transmission. Tell me the method you used to seal the devil back then. Seal. Zhu Yao was startled, as she shook her head out of reflex. No, master. Sealing arts are arts of the god race, and they must be activated with godly energy. If you forcefully use spiritual energy, you will suffer a backlash. You can't. Yu Wang. His voice sank, and carried a hint of reproach. You can do it, so why can't your master? Trust your master this once. What he said made sense. She gritted her teeth. Right now this was the only way. Hence, she chose the safest and most effective seal, the sacrificial imprint art. Then she explained the key points of the mystic art, the key points of formations, the flow of spiritual energy, and so on to her master. Yu Yan listened to her seriously, and could not help but frown. Initially, it was very hard to form a sealing art like this, which was similar to formations, without practice. However, the miraculous thing was, after his disciple explained the method to him once, the specific diagram of the seal was automatically drawn in his mind, as though he knew about these mystic arts right from the start. The heavenly tribulation had already descended, and 81 heavenly lightning bolts struck down on him without stopping. Yu Yan guided the heavenly lightning bolts with all his might, and together with the dragon, they attacked the devil. That devil seemed to be at a disadvantage. No matter if it was the heavenly lightning bolts or the dragon's attacks, none of them missed. However, he was like an unkillable cockroach, as he returned to his original state in an instant. Ha ha ha. He suddenly laughed out wildly. Ao Jiang, it's useless. I'm a devil, unkillable and indestructible. No matter how strong you guys are, you're basically unable to kill me. Ao Jiang's expression turned stern, and his gigantic dragon head pounced straight towards him. However, Yu Yan was activating that sealing art at the same time. Finally, When the final heavenly lightning bolt descended, the seal was activated at the same time. In an instant, a gigantic talisman diagram appeared in the sky, and like a gigantic net, it enveloped downwards, offering seal. Aojiang was startled, and then he was both surprised and overjoyed. Returning to his human form, he looked at Yu Yan with sparkling eyes. How is this possible? How can there be someone who knows ancient sealing arts? Yen Wu's face was ashen, as he stared at the seal in the sky. He wanted to escape, however, he was isolated within by the light of the seal, and was unable to struggle free. Yen Wu, I have long said that this is fate. The ancient devil is destined to perish. Aojiang, however, had a calm expression, as though he had heaved a sigh of relief. You and I have fought for so many years? You should have long seen through the heavenly Tao. I can't accept this, I can't accept this. That seal pressed down even more, and Yen Wu began to struggle crazily. Even his voice was beginning to turn sharp and ear-piercing. His entire face, as though it was being pulled by something, began to change shape. Why is the devil not tolerated in this world? It's because this world is unfair. A 3 realms like this should be destroyed in the first place. What heavenly Tao? Even if this is the heavenly Tao, I will still go against it. Destroy. Destroy this world. The more he spoke, the crazier he became. His human form could no longer be seen at all, as though he was a mass of black miasma that only knew how to vent his anger. He was rampaging about, and had completely lost his rationality. Zhu Yao's heart sank for a moment. So this was the true form of the devil? A mass of resentment that only knew how to kill, destroy, and bloodthirsty. However, no matter how he struggled, he was unable to break free from the seal. That golden formation pressed downwards. Yen Wu instantly disappeared beneath the seal, and not a single strand of his aura could be sensed anymore. On the ground, an additional circular formation appeared. Yu Yan focused and retracted his spiritual energy, however, he was still unable to withstand the backlash. His body swayed for a moment, and a hint of blood leaked out from the corner of his lips. Master! Zhu Yao flew over with her sword, and held onto his body. Her heart instantly tightened. Are you all right? Yu Yan shook his head, and out of habit he stroked her head. I'm fine. Don't worry. His blood is merely flowing in the opposite direction. His dantian is shattered, and his meridians are mostly destroyed. It's nothing major. That purple-clothed dragon walked over with a leisurely look. His blood is flowing in the opposite direction. His dantian is shattered, and his meridians are completely severed, yet he's still fine. Zhu Yao turned her head and glared at him hatefully. If you say another word, I will strangle you to death. Aojiang was startled, and he could not help but take a step back. Why was this little lady so fierce? He did not say anything either. This little bit of injury was nothing much to them dragons after all. After hesitating for a moment, he still reached out his palm, and placed it on Yu Yan's back. Transferring a bit of godly energy over, he repaired the other party's dantian. Earlier, it's all thanks to the 2 of you for helping me seal the devil. It's nothing. This is what you should be thanking me for. Zhu Yao waved her hand. Aojiang. This little lady sure wasn't the least bit courteous. P.S. Thank you to Bailey Yi's Wall of Recollections for your reward. I woke up early today. I feel so cute. Chapter 226. Master, how are you? Are you feeling better? Amen. Yu Yan nodded. Just as he was about to instruct his disciple, a pillar of light suddenly descended from the sky, instantly enveloping Yu Yan within. The light of guidance. This time, he had no choice but to leave. Master. Zhu Yao grabbed onto him. Although she knew that he had to ascend the moment he came out, she still couldn't bear to part with him. Yu Yan stroked her cheek, and said with a stern expression, Yu Wang, be careful in the future. Amen. Zhu Yao nodded heavily, and at that moment, she felt a little sour in her heart. Return to Lightning Divine Hall as soon as possible. Master will be waiting for you. Yu Yan carefully combed the hair in front of her forehead, and his voice sank. In the end, he was still not at ease, so he leaned close to her ear and said, Don't let Master wait for too long. Just as she was about to nod, Yu Yan lowered his head, and his lips pressed onto hers. Zhu Yao was stunned. All of the senses in her entire body were gathered on the two lips that were pressed against each other. With a hint of surprise and emotion, she widened her eyes, and her mind was instantly blank. Yu Yan's figure, however, grew fainter, and finally, disappeared within the light of guidance. He was still connected to the higher realm. Zhu Yao stood on the spot, maintaining her posture earlier. Not even in her dreams would she have thought that her master would actually do such an intimate thing in broad daylight, in front of everyone. He was really too unrestrained. But, I like it. Coo. As a witness to the entire process, Aojiang faked 2 coughs, reminding a certain someone to snap out of her daze. He then probed. Miss, are the two of you really master and disciple? Zhu Yao turned to glare at this gossipy dragon, and coldly said, What the hell does a single dragon like you know? He suffered 1,000 plus damage. So what if you have a partner? Aojiang rubbed his nose, and recovered. Sizing up the unhappy Zhu Yao, a strange feeling flashed past the depths of his heart. Miss, have we met somewhere in the past? The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. Are the dragon race's pickup lines so old-fashioned? There's no end to a relationship that crosses races. A girl in a long-distance relationship could not afford to be hurt. That's not what I meant. I'm saying, I want to ask why your master knows about sealing arts? This seal originated from the ancient god race in the first place, and even he only knew a little about it. However, they were clearly 2 mortals. And I keep feeling that the 2 of you look a little familiar. Putting aside the fact that the person who ascended looked exactly the same as the far ancient high god, the more he looked at this young lady, the more familiar she seemed. Zhu Yao glanced at him. Could she say that she had learned it from a genuine primordial god? Actually, just as Zhu Yao was thinking of coming up with a story that could shock the heavens and make the gods weep, one that was fresh, refined, and extraordinary, one that would make people want to hear even more good stories. Suddenly Ao Yen Aojiang Xing the dragon to with Yen, Aojiang's Yao, the Yen. You. Aojiang's eyes widened abruptly as he looked at Swanni, who was laughing maniacally. With the strength of a single devil, how could it possibly break through the seal? Aojiang, is this the heavenly Tao that you firmly believe in? Do you think that after all these years, you can see clearly but I can't see clearly? Who says destiny can't be changed? What do you mean? Aojiang was stunned. Zhu Yao could not help but feel her heart clench as well. She faintly felt that he was about to talk about something huge. Lao Ai laughed even more wantonly. What do you mean by the heavenly Tao destined the devil clan to perish? In the end, it's just that your god clan has more luck than the devil clan. As long as there's luck, then I'm the chosen one. Aojiang snorted coldly. How could the heavenly Tao's karmic luck possibly lean towards your devil race? Not necessarily. The devil laughed and waved his hand. Suddenly, a black shadow appeared beside him. I don't have it, but I can steal it. The black shadow slowly became clear, and soon the appearance of a woman was revealed. Yiling. Zhu Yao suddenly widened her eyes. That black illusory figure was actually Mary Sue. Her whole body was surrounded by black smoke, and she looked like she was in pain. Why was she here? And she was even captured by the devil. Aojiang, after all these years, did you think that you're the only one hiding in that eggshell to recover your strength? Yet, I can't do anything at all. Lao Ai coldly laughed. His face was filled with complacency after his scheme succeeded. I have always been searching for a way to break the devil race's destiny, and finally, I found this darling of the heavenly Tao. As long as I fuse with her soul, from then on my primordial devil race will be the chosen one. Fuse. He wanted to devour Yiling's soul. Release her. Lin Qi had unknowingly woken up, and he looked at Lao Ai with a nervous look. You promised that as long as I help you break the barrier and enter, you will no longer take over my body, and you will let Ling Er go. Let her go? Lao Ai coldly laughed. I have searched for so many years before I finally found someone with great luck on her body. How can I possibly let her go? Lin Qi's face was ashen. The person who knows sealing arts has already ascended to the higher realm. Let's see how you're going to fight against me now. Lao Ai waved his hand, and Yi Ling's illusory figure was instantly recalled back into his body. He then attacked Aojiang. Zhu Yao felt something flashing in the depths of her heart, as though she had grasped onto something. However, even more questions surged in her mind. Great luck? Was he talking about Yi Ling's Mary Sue halo? Looking at the current situation, Lao Ai should have captured Lin Qi right from the start, and used him to destroy the barrier between human practitioners and demonic beasts. Then he captured Yi Ling, and threatened Lin Qi to use the bloodline connection between gods to bring him to Aojiang. Most probably, Lin Qi did not know that the one in the egg was a god in the beginning. The reason why he captured Yi Ling was because of the great luck on her body, and the use of this luck was equivalent to the heavenly Tao. Zhu Yao did not know how much time had passed in the lower realm after she opened the world crossing door, and was affected by the chaotic space. However, from their conversation, a very long time had passed, and in this period of time they should have been constantly fighting. And from their battles, the two of them seemed to have comprehended a strand of the heavenly Tao, and the heavenly Tao clearly did not lean towards the devil's side. Hence, the devil would think of all sorts of ways to struggle free from this destiny. And Yi Ling possessed the destiny he was looking for, which was also the so-called great luck. She carefully recalled the scenario. Actually, Yi Ling's luck was indeed extremely good. Other than Lin Qi at the end, her entire life seemed to have been smooth sailing. She had never truly encountered danger, and even if she was in a dangerous situation, not only would she be able to escape from danger, she would even obtain a harem of undying loyalty. In other words, Yi Ling's bug was not because of Lin Qi, but because of her existence itself, and the great luck on her body. Zhu Yao fiercely widened her eyes. She finally understood why the word bug on her face had never disappeared. As expected, her bug was unrelated to other people. However, if this luck was really that incredible, why did Lin Qi suddenly wake up at the end of the scenario? Not only did he kill off Yi Ling's harem, he did not even let her off. This was simply illogical. Could it be that Lin Qi's luck was greater than Yi Ling's? No, if that was the case, Yi Ling would have long been dead set on him. Unless, Zhu Yao was startled for a moment, as a bold thought suddenly popped up in her mind. Raising her head, she looked at Lin Qi, and then turned towards that devil. Unless, the Lin Qi at the end of the scenario was not the real Lin Qi. Earlier, Lin Qi said that devil wanted to take over his body. In the beginning, she thought that the devil's actions were to make Lin Qi open the barrier. And because Lin Qi was beaten up by her, his strength had greatly decreased, and he was basically unable to resist the devil. Hence, before the devil could take over his body, he immediately agreed. However, if it was in the original scenario, Lin Qi possessed the bloodline of a god, and would definitely resist. The devil would definitely forcefully take over his body, and become Lin Qi. In other words, in the scenario, the one who fell in love with Yi Ling was actually that devil. Hence, after finding out about Yi Ling's betrayal, he became so furious, and even took revenge on society, and destroyed the world. This was basically not something he did out of anger, but the nature of the ancient devil was as such. Yi Ling's betrayal had merely triggered his nature. The more Zhu Yao thought about it, the more she felt that the Lin Qi in the scenario was Yan Qi, especially when Lin Qi brought demonic beasts to attack at the end. She had personally witnessed Yan Qi using EU to control the demonic beasts. And when Lin Qi used his bloodline to suppress Sesame, Sesame clearly had its own will, and was not completely obedient. This proved that Lin Qi was basically unable to control the demonic beasts. But why did this devil not feel the slightest bit of pity towards Yi Ling, and instead wanted to directly devour Yi Ling's soul, and steal her great luck? Could it be that because he did not take over Lin Qi, he did not receive the influence of spiritual luck? That's not right. If the luck on Yi Ling's body was ineffective against the devil's main body, why would he need to spend so much effort to find someone with great luck? Unless the effect of luck had weakened. Zhu Yao took in a cold breath. She suddenly recalled that, ever since Yi Ling was affected by her world-favorable impression ability, her Mary Sue attribute seemed to have decreased. Other than the men in the past who were still dead set on her, there did not seem to be a situation where a man would automatically switch his love mode the moment he saw her. Could it be that because of her, her luck had decreased? In other words, the luck on her body was greater than Yiling's. Why did she feel that it was a little dangerous? Zhu Yao could be considered to have sorted out this mess, but the main point was, how was she going to solve it? Damn. Her master had already ascended to the higher realm, and she was currently half-crippled as well. Most probably, that devil had been pretending to be sealed in the beginning, in order to lure her master, who knew sealing arts, away. However, he most likely did not know that she knew sealing arts as well. Back then, she had used it once to seal the devilic energy on Lin Qi's body, but back then, she was within the dragon egg's barrier, so Yan Qi did not know that it was her doing. This could be considered as her trump card. However, just sealing the devilic energy on Lin Qi's body, she had already used up all of her strength. Even if she were to rush forward now, she would only be causing trouble for Aojiang, let alone sealing him once more. Furthermore, with Yiling, this huge Yuji in her hands, he would most likely still be able to escape. What should she do? Was there a way to settle this once and for all? Once and for all, Zhu Yao was stunned for a moment, and then, she suddenly thought of an idea. Calming her heart, she sent a voice transmission to the dragon in the sky who was fighting intensely. Aojiang, can you let me take over your body for a moment? With a crack, Aojiang was almost struck by the devil, and he barely dodged it. A moment later, he sent a voice transmission back. Lass, don't mess around. Your injuries aren't light, hide further away. I'm not joking, Zhu Yao solemnly said. To tell you the truth, I know sealing arts as well, but right now, I don't have the ability to form seals. This seal can only be activated with godly energy. I simply need to enter your divine sense, and temporarily take control of your body. Lass, you're crazy, Aojiang solemnly said. Let's not talk about whether this method will work or not. I'm a god. If you enter my divine sense, won't you die from the backlash? Furthermore, sealing arts are extremely complicated. Even I don't have 100% confidence. How can you be so certain that you'll definitely succeed? What he said made sense, however. What if I say, I'm Shaoqi of the Phoenix clan? The gigantic dragon in the sky clearly stiffened for an instant. A moment later, as though it had eaten a stimulant, it suddenly leaped up, and its dragon tail wildly swept towards Yan Qi. His excited voice transmission sounded in her ears. Shaoqi of the Phoenix clan. Shaoqi, who opened the world-crossing door. The disciple of the far ancient high god. Oh, although you're still alive, I'm not dreaming, right? Amen. Earlier, when she saw him mistaking her master, Zhu Yao guessed that he definitely recognized her as well. She never expected that they were really acquaintances. He held for a moment, and then said, Then why did you turn into this appearance? There's no time to explain. Just tell me, are you going to help or not? Help. Of course I'll help, Aojiang excitedly replied. But entering my divine sense is too dangerous. Why don't I just lend you my dragon pearl? After saying that, he immediately reverted to his human form. With a twist of his hand, a prison of light was instantly formed. For rays of light shot towards the devil from different directions, instantly trapping him where he stood. Little seventh, he shouted, and Zhu Yao immediately flew over to welcome him. Seeing that Yan Qi was trapped, Lin Qi took this opportunity to summon a sky-high inferno, burning towards him. Idiot, don't. Zhu Yao could not stop him in time. A black light flashed within the inferno, and an icicle flew out, instantly piercing through Lin Qi's leg. With a loud bang, he fell down, and Yan Qi broke free as well, chasing after Aojiang. Aojiang had already reunited with Zhu Yao, but seeing that the devil was already closing in, he no longer had the time to force out the dragon pearl. He had no choice but to hug Zhu Yao, and with his head lowered, he wanted to directly pass the dragon pearl over. However, he did not aim properly, and kissed her cheek instead. Hence, he had no choice but to raise his head, and do it again. This time he kissed her on the eye, and again on the forehead, and again. Finally he aimed properly and smoothly passed over. Zhu Yao, whose face was covered in saliva, Dao Jiang smacked his lips in satisfaction. As a single dragon, it was completely understandable that his skills were not up to standard. Chapter 227. No matter how powerful the gods are, they are still human cultivators. No matter how strong he was, he couldn't be stronger than heaven's will. He couldn't resist the heavenly Tao. But the world-favorable impression disobeyed this rule. So, Zhu Yao glanced at the conversation window and said with certainty, "If you're not above the heavenly Tao, then you're an existence equivalent to the heavenly Tao." Realm spirit. What, am I wrong? Realm spirit, no, it's not right. What's that? Realm spirit. I suddenly realized that your IQ has increased in advance. Congratulations. Scram. Zhu Yao rolled her eyes at him. Since you're so incredible, then those bugs that I fixed, you can easily resolve them. Why did you pull me over? Or, the world I'm in is also under your control? Realm spirit. No, young lady. No. Realm spirit. You should know, right? Space is divided into many planes, and beneath the planes are many small worlds. It's just like the 3,000 worlds you saw, and you exist in another plane. Then why did you pull me here? Realm spirit. Because we are friends, young lady. Scram. You must have had an ulterior motive from the beginning. Otherwise, you wouldn't have chatted with me on QQ for so many years before revealing your true colors. Realm spirit. Sigh, young lady. Actually, it's not a good thing to have too much power. Not to mention the fact that I have to work all year round. I still have to work without pay. It was sad, wasn't it? Occasionally he would get sick, but he didn't have medical insurance and couldn't see a doctor. He had to rely on his immune system. Speak human language. Realm spirit. I can't fix these bugs. Only you can fix them? You can even go against the heavenly Tao. Can't you fix a few small bugs? Zhu Yao expressed her doubts. Realm spirit. No one is perfect, young lady. If you're just looking for someone to help you maintain world peace. Ugh, what's wrong? There are so many people in the 3 realms. Can't you just find a random one? Why did you come all the way here from another plane? Realm spirit. Lie? Young girl, you hurt our friendship. Scram. Our friendship has long been shattered into pieces, okay? Why exactly? Realm spirit. No one in the 3 realms can do it. They were born in this world, so they were affected by the heavenly Tao. Just like Yiling, she had a great amount of luck on her body, so under the influence of this luck, she couldn't help but be affected. No one would be able to escape. Everyone would involuntarily submit to her destiny. But you're different. You don't belong to this world. It wasn't even the same plane. The heavenly Tao can't do anything to you at all. So you say, no one can escape the Mary Sue halo? World spirit. Every person's luck has its own purpose. The destiny on Yiling's body was originally meant to restrain the devil race. Yiling was blessed with luck. There would be no danger around the devil race. On the other hand, the devil race suppressed their nature and could slowly eliminate their demonic nature. This was the goal of the heavenly Tao. According to what you're saying, if I hadn't come to that world, I would have fallen in love with Yiling? Realm spirit, I see. But luck could be controlled. The human heart was hard to fathom. Yiling's luck not only affected the demon race, but also affected other people. The devil race that couldn't get what they wanted. In any case, it deepened the demonic nature and directly led to the collapse of the world. You're saying Yiling was originally a patch that the heavenly Tao put on, but in the end it was not fixed. Instead it became a bug. Realm spirit. Young maiden, you're too smart. I admire you. But the devil I saw, forget about falling in love with Yiling. He clearly wanted to kill Yiling. Realm spirit. Everyone's luck is different. A small amount of luck is easily affected by a large amount of luck. That's why you didn't fall in love with Yiling in the end. That's because her luck was affected by your favorable impression level, and was no longer the large amount of luck she had in the beginning. So in the end, after you completely unlocked your favorable impression level, the excessive amount of luck on her body disappeared as well, and she was no longer a bug. Zhu Yao's expression darkened. According to what you're saying, If the heavenly Tao casually distributes a bit of luck, a bug will appear, and I will never be able to fix it? Just how long do I have to fix such a brainless patch? I'm not even someone from your plane, so there's no reason for me to continue working for you, right? Realm Spirit. Isn't this great, young maiden? This is what it truly means. Even the heavens are helping you. Ho ho. Zhu Yao chuckled. Don't try to fool me with such words. You wouldn't have intentionally pulled me over from another plane to do something like this. That's clearly an endless loop. There must be another reason, be honest. Realm Spirit. Young maiden, you're not cute if you're so serious. Be honest. Realm Spirit. It's still not time yet. You don't completely understand everything. However, I can guarantee that you won't keep on fixing bugs. Is there any use in your guarantee? Zhu Yao rolled her eyes at him. Back then he even made a vow, but wasn't it still the same? It was completely useless. Realm Spirit. We've been friends for so many years, give me some face, alright? Our friendship is over. Realm Spirit. Forget it. Zhu Yao took a deep breath. If Realm Spirit really didn't want to speak, there was no point in her continuing to ask. Realm Spirit. Lord Zhu is mighty. Realm Spirit. To tell you the truth, I really hope that you will always remember our friendship. Don't screw me over too badly. Although I'm not from your plane, I'm still just a normal person. After saying that, her figure flashed, disappearing into the darkness. The only thing left in the space was the conversation window that hung high up. After a pause, it disappeared in a flash. A moment later, a deep voice resounded. All right, friend. When Zhu Yao once again opened her eyes, her vision was still filled with darkness. If not for the scattered shadows swaying in front of her eyes, she would have thought that the resurrection loading bar had jammed. She rubbed her eyes, and just when she was about to take a closer look, an urging voice suddenly sounded from behind her. What are you standing there for? Hurry and catch up. When she turned around, she was faced with a ferocious-looking face. Dressed in white, his hair was disheveled, his eyes were protruding outwards, and he was bleeding from his 7 orifices. His tongue was even hanging down to his chin, and he looked very much like Sadako who crawled out from the television. Zhu Yao took in a cold breath. Scenes from hundreds of horror films instantly surfaced in her mind, and a scream instantly pierced through the sky. Ghost Sadako covered her ears and floated a few meters away. Her eyes protruded even more, as though she was extremely angry as she glared at her. Sweeping her up and down, she said, "What are you screaming for? You speak as though you're not a ghost yourself." Chapter 228. Fiercely wiping away the saliva on her face, Zhu Yao felt unwell all over. A word suddenly popped up in her mind: ambergris. She had read from a book before that this fragrance was used as a metaphor for a dragon's saliva. And now, her face was really drenched in ambergris. Yet she simply thought, blurg blurg. She felt as though she was about to puke out all the meals she had eaten in this lifetime. The single dragon who kissed a girl for the first time received plus 2,000 damage, and his glass heart shattered into pieces. He silently formed hand seals, and used all his strength to block the devil's attacks. Turning around, he said with a resentful look, "Little seventh, at least give me some face." Was it that disgusting? No matter what, we're considered acquaintances, right? When you were still an egg, I even saw you before. Zhu Yao retched for a long while, before finally stopping. "I beg of you, don't talk to me right now." She didn't want to puke anymore either, alright? Taking a deep breath, she meditated on the spot, and began to catalyze the godly energy in the dragon pearl. Her current avatar was not a god, and was basically unable to withstand godly energy. Seemingly in an instant, she could feel the meridians in her body exploding like fireworks. Yet, she had no choice but to grit her teeth and continue. Though Aojiang's barrier was strong, it could only barely block Yin Qi's attacks. Adding that he had lost his godly energy source, his dragon pearl, it was extremely tough for him to hold on. The Yin Qi seemed to have realized that they were plotting something, as he attacked even harder. He had already completely lost his human form. He was like a lump of black smoke that was constantly changing. At one moment he would turn into thousands of faces tearing at them, and at the next moment, he would turn into a twisted monster. It was as though he was in a high-production horror movie. Little seventh, hurry, I can't hold on much longer. Aojiang's head was already drenched in cold sweat. The barrier was growing weaker as well. Without any other choice, he could only turn around and return to his dragon form, using his gigantic body to help Zhu Yao block Yin Qi's attacks. Zhu Yao had no choice but to crazily circulate her godly energy, forming a complicated hand seal with her hands. Oh ho ho! That devil let out a cold and sinister laugh. Aojiang, no matter what you guys are planning to do, once I completely fuse with this person with great luck, none of you will be able to stop me. From this moment onwards, the heavenly Tao shall be rewritten. His laughter grew louder and louder, but it carried a bone-chilling coldness that made people shiver from the bottom of their hearts. The blackness on his body became even thicker, as though he was fusing with Yiling's soul with all his might. Suddenly his body swayed twice, and that face began to distort. Slowly, a look of pain surfaced, and not long later, it turned into Yiling's face. Yiling! Zhu Yao called out, and the godly energy in her body once again began to scatter chaotically. She seemed to be in extreme pain, as her entire face was scrunched up. Glancing at Zhu Yao from afar, she seemed to be stunned for an instant. A moment later she muttered, "Senior Marshal Sister Zhu." She was still conscious. Zhu Yao clenched her fists, and for a moment, she felt a little frenzied. This devil was really a motherfucking bastard. Senior Sister Zhu. Her expression became even more pained, as if she was resisting something with all her might. After a while she said, "Don't worry about me. Quickly, run." Damn, if you put it that way, then I can't just stand by and watch him die. She suddenly recalled Yiling's hesitant look when she left Blue Parasol Sect. Most likely, she had already sensed that she might be in danger back then, and wanted to seek her protection. However, in the end she did not speak up either. At this moment, Zhu Yao could not help but feel a hint of guilt. Back then, Yiling's Mary Sue impression was too deep, so she habitually guarded against her. Ever since she was affected by the world-favorable impression ability, she had never trusted her either. Now that she thought about it, that world-favorable impression ability really had a suppressive effect on her Mary Sue cheat. Then, I never expected that you still have consciousness. Yin Qi's face twisted for a moment, before returning to its original state, as though he had once again suppressed Yiling. The black aura around his body grew even heavier. There was no more time. If this continued, Yiling would be completely killed by him. Zhu Yao gritted her teeth. She was going to risk it, and immediately opened the world-favorable impression ability above her head. If this world-favorable impression ability was able to suppress Yiling's luck, she could most probably use this point to completely sense Yiling's bug. Seemingly in an instant, something was being transmitted over from Yin Qi's direction, and the devilic aura around his body had faded quite a bit as well. What's going on? Yin Qi's expression turned flustered. His figure suddenly shook, and a hole seemed to have opened up in the black smoke. A pink figure struggled to break free from within. Although she could not see it, Zhu Yao could sense that the luck on Yiling's body was currently being transmitted over in her direction. No, how is this possible? How can she possibly break free from my control? Yin Qi released even more devilic aura, surrounding Yiling tightly, as though he wanted to coil her back into his body. However, it was completely useless. As though Yiling was being pulled by something that she could not resist, she was sent straight towards the barrier. Even Aojiang was staring straight at Zhu Yao, his eyes were glowing. Looking at Zhu Yao, whose entire body was already covered in blood from the godly energy that he had lost control over, he turned his gigantic dragon head back, and said in an extremely annoying manner, "Little Seventh, so your Phoenix clan is actually so outstanding. Are you interested in laying an egg for me to incubate?" Scram. Zhu Yao glared at him, and sent a voice transmission. "Aojiang, in a while, once that woman with great luck has completely broken free from that devil, immediately release the barrier." Aojiang was startled for a moment before nodding. Yin Qi on the outside had already sunk into madness. He desperately wanted to stop Yiling, who had broken free from his control, but it was completely useless. Raising his head, he glanced at Zhu Yao who was inside the barrier, and as though he had just woken up from a dream, his eyes widened like a cow's. No. This is impossible. There's actually an even greater luck in this world. Sorry, world favorable impression points were just that powerful. Zhu Yao calmed her heart, and used all of her willpower to think of a way for him to break free, while Yi Ling's figure grew clearer and clearer. Yanqi realized that he could not stop her as well, so he decided not to bother Yi Ling any longer, and instead, attacked Zhu Yao. At the same time, Yi Ling fell towards the barrier. Aojiang! Zhu Yao shouted. Aojiang instantly released the barrier, and Yanqi had already charged straight in. At the same time, Zhu Yao guided out all of the godly energy within the dragon pearl. Her hand seals were completed, and when the other party was about to approach, she immediately activated the seal. Devil Smiting Seal. In an instant, with Zhu Yao as the center, a ray of white light spread out in all directions, like exploding fireworks. Wherever it went, there were no changes to the living beings. However, the devil had instantly turned into nothingness. Devil Smiting Seal. The only seal that could completely kill a devil. This seal is? Aojiang was stunned for a moment, as though he could not react to it at all. His gigantic dragon head turned for a moment, and with a shocked expression he said, "We won?" However, Zhu Yao only had a single breath left, and her consciousness was beginning to blur. In the blink of an eye, she saw Yi Ling lying not far away. Her breathing was stable, and her face was very clean as well. There were no longer any strange symbols on her face, and she instantly heaved a sigh of relief. She had long expected that once the Devil Smiting Seal was activated, she would definitely be heavily injured. Even a powerful god could only use it twice in his entire life, let alone a demigod stage tree demon like her. Fortunately, she managed to guard a strand of her consciousness at the very last moment. As long as she did not act recklessly, she could still. That's great. Aojiang suddenly roared out excitedly. With a leap of his claws, he pounced towards Zhu Yao. Little Seventh. In an instant, a gigantic dragon-shaped shadow descended from the sky. Don't come over. Pooh, the world turned dark, Ting. A familiar conversation window once again popped out. Achievement of being crushed to death by a pig-headed teammate. Achieved. Congratulations, you have died once again. Please choose. Resurrection versus rebirth. The hell? Aojiang, if you have the guts, don't leave after school. This was definitely the worst way to die this year. There was no other. The conversation window paused for 2 seconds, before flashing once again, and a new line of text appeared. Target does not have a choice, then rebirth. Congratulations, you are about to release a new version. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched as she solemnly said, Realm Spirit, stop hiding. Die and come out. The loading numbers paused for a full minute, before flashing and disappearing. A familiar QQ conversation window once again popped out. Realm Spirit, brave young maiden, you have finally conquered the world. Welcome back. The bug fix this time is too amazing. 5-star rating, my dear. You still dare to say that? What's with that scenario? Not only was there no scene, you even gave me the wrong version? If not for the fact that she had made multiple guesses in the end, and was able to see through the entire sequence of events, she would have died a long time ago. You know? It's just a scenario. Is there a need to be so brain-racking? Realm Spirit. Young maiden, calm down. I have said it before. The bug this time will encounter an unprecedented difficulty, right? May I ask, when have you not encountered any difficulties? Realm Spirit. Ho ho ho. Don't mind these details. Details your sister. Zhu Yao took a deep breath, and resisted the urge to beat him up. Also, what's with that world favorable impression ability? It's basically like a powerful aphrodisiac, alright? Realm Spirit. That's a special benefit. I only gave it to you because we're close, you know? I don't want to be close to you, thank you. Realm Spirit. Don't be so heartless, young maiden. Didn't you use it rather well? Alright, it was indeed all thanks to this world favorable impression ability. Otherwise, she really wouldn't have been able to deal with Yi Ling so quickly. Last time we agreed that after fixing this bug, you will tell me everything. Now is the time. Speak. Who in the world are you? Realm spirit. Ho ho ho. Young maiden, the weather today is pretty good. Why don't we talk about something else? Zhu Yao's expression darkened. You're changing the topic too obviously. Realm spirit. Actually, even if you don't say it, I have already guessed most of it. Realm spirit. It allows me to resurrect infinitely, and I can freely control the target of my reincarnation. It's even able to give me a practically heaven-defying achievement like world-favorable impression ability. It knows everything about the three realms like the back of its hand. But what I was asked to do was to save the world and other noble things. Zhu Yao took a deep breath and continued to analyze. In the beginning, I thought you were some ancient god with powerful mystic powers. Later on, I found out that compared to what you've done, the gods are simply too weak. Even they are within your grasp. Later on, I thought you came from the realm of gods. In the three realms, I have never seen a true god. Since I'm not clear of their abilities, I naturally thought that only gods are capable of this. However, now I no longer think so. Chapter 229. Before her reincarnation, Zhu Yao had always been worried. With realm spirit's unreliable nature, who knows what kind of ghost would she be using this time? Who would have thought that she really was a ghost? She did not reincarnate at all, and actually turned into a ghost. Zhu Yao felt as though she could hear the sound of the reincarnation halo shattering above her head. What are you daydreaming for? Hurry and go. Seeing that Zhu Yao had stopped again, Sadako, who was behind her, could only push her. The door to the underworld is about to close. If you continue daydreaming, you won't be able to enter. Hurry and catch up to the group. Zhu Yao was startled for a moment. Raising her head, she saw a long line of people queuing up in front of her. Many ghosts with disheveled hair and dressed in white clothes were lined up in an orderly manner like Sadako. Not far away in front of her, a huge pitch-black door that seemed to touch the sky was currently wide open. The door was floating in the air, and the surroundings were filled with smoke. Inside the door was pitch black, and she could not see clearly. Strangely, there was a kind of attraction that made her want to approach it. With a thought, she floated forward and caught up to the group. Zhu Yao curiously stared at the door. That was the entrance to the underworld? She really turned into a ghost? Suddenly, a grunt sounded from beneath her feet. Something rolled over. Hey girl, I dropped something. Help me pick it up. The ghost in front of her suddenly spoke. Oh. Zhu Yao reflexively bent down and picked up the round pearl beneath her feet. Looking at it, she saw a pale white eyeball lying in her hand. Zhu Yao's hand trembled, and she threw it away. With a swoosh, the eyeball disappeared without a trace. My eye! That ghost screamed, and then left the group to chase after the eyeball. Zhu Yao, that's just what kind of place is this? Why are there people throwing eyeballs for fun? Girl, good throw. Sadako, who was behind her, leaned forward and said with an excited look. I have long found that ghost to be an eyesore. Relying on the fact that he's a ghost that fell to his death, he would either throw eyeballs or ears for fun. So what if he's broken into pieces? When I die in my next life, I will definitely fall even more broken than him. Was this something worth showing off? However, Zhu Yao's frightened little heart had calmed down quite a bit. Taking a deep breath, she mustered up her courage and turned to carefully inspect the ghosts in the queue. She wouldn't know if she didn't look. He was so scared that he peed his pants. There were hardly any complete members in the team. It was fine if they were missing an arm or a leg. Some of them even had their stomachs cut open. Their appearances were each more horrifying than the last. It would be an insult to ghosts to describe their appearances as unrecognizable. Oh right. I was hanged to death. How did you die? Sadako opened her mouth. I was courting death. I died of illness. Oh. He sized Zhu Yao up for a moment, and his expression sank. He lowered his voice and said, No wonder you're so complete. Hey, what's with your sympathetic expression? Don't be sad. He patted on Zhu Yao's shoulders, and said with a stern look, Try to die a little more miserably in your next life. Are you sure you're not cursing me? Was the trend in the netherworld to compete in misery? It's almost our turn. Sadako pointed ahead. Zhu Yao raised her head. They had already floated outside the door, and the ghosts in front of them had already entered the door one by one. In a flash, they had all disappeared. The netherworld is behind this door? Zhu Yao suddenly recalled the television. Various ghostly scenes. She took a few deep breaths. After preparing her heart for a long while, she finally hardened her heart. Gritting her teeth, she followed the steps of the ghost in front of her, and stepped into the door. The interior of the pitch-black door earlier shook like a curtain. As though her entire body had sunk into a swamp, she was instantly sucked in. Her vision turned pitch-black for a moment, and not a moment later, the scenery in front of her shook. The curtain was lifted, and in an instant, a street decorated with lanterns and colored banners appeared. The street was extremely bustling. Large red lanterns were hung high up, and there were restaurants, inns, tea houses, and all sorts of shops. It gave her a feeling as though she had arrived at an ancient film city. Everywhere was brightly lit, and it did not look the slightest bit eerie or terrifying. On the streets, there were even several people holding up shiny signs and shouting out loud, "Come, come, come. The Megalon Hall is recruiting disciples." There are no restrictions on the era of ghosts, nor are there any restrictions on appearance or height. Those who come will be accepted into the sect, and will be given profound cultivation arts on the spot. With the guidance of a famous teacher, mastery is guaranteed, and the remaining resources are guaranteed to enter the sect for free. Eastern Elegance Sect. Eastern Elegance Sect's ghost practitioners. Strong teachers, a famous teacher overseeing the sect, and first-rate resources producing first-rate disciples. Eastern Elegance Sect ghost cultivators, fair price, no discrimination between men and women. If you join now, you will even be given basic cultivation arts. You have already joined the Ghost Cultivator Deluxe package. 7 Stars Sect. 7 Stars Sect Training Institute. Abundant resources, convenient location, and free entry into the sect. 7 Stars Sect is your wisest choice. If you join now, you will also be given free contribution points, providing you with a stable backing. Jiangna Hall. Zhu Yao, that are you sure this is the netherworld? Isn't this some advertising department? Just as she was in a daze, a male ghost with the word 7 stars written on his clothes came over. Little miss. I see that your skull is strange and your glabella is dark. I believe you have quite a bit of talent. Do you want to join my 7 Stars sect? What the hell did he mean by dark glabella? Fellow ghost, she is already a disciple of my Baishu sect. Her hand tightened, and she was suddenly pulled behind a white-clothed male ghost. That 7 Stars sect disciple looked at the two of them, before walking away with a disappointed look, and continued to shout advertisements. The white-clothed male ghost turned around, and warned with a stern look. Let me tell you, do not listen to the lies of these ghosts. These are all small sects that scam new ghosts. Some sects only have a total of 1 or 2 ghosts. You must not fall for their tricks. Zhu Yao looked at this man with a delicate face. You are? Who are you? The man blinked for a moment, and then pointed at himself. I'm the hanged ghost who was standing behind you earlier? Have you forgotten? Hanged ghost. The one who was bleeding from his 7 orifices? After passing through the door to the netherworld, a ghost's body will naturally recover. It's no wonder you couldn't recognize me. His face was filled with disappointment and regret. Ha, as expected, my previous appearance is even more mighty. Not at all. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. She looked around, and as expected, she could no longer see a single ghost with bodily defects on the streets. Thank the door to the netherworld. Thank you, Ghost Brother, for your guidance. I wonder what Brother Ghost's name is? She politely asked. The male ghost smiled. Our meeting is fate. Death by sickness, Ghost Girly. There's no need to be polite. Death by sickness, Ghost Zhu Yao. That my surname is Chun, and my given name is Zhen. Chun Zhen? Hello, I'm Huiyuanjia. Huiyuanjia? Your name is really strange. It's not as strange as you, alright? Chun Zhen blinked for a moment, and then continued passionately. Death by sickness, Ghost Girly. Looking at your appearance, you're a newly deceased ghost as well. This must be your first time entering the netherworld, right? Let's go. Big bro will bring you to get your marriage certificate? Getting a marriage certificate the first time they met? Wasn't that a little too fast? What's there to about? Hurry and float. Chen Zhen urged. Only by going to the World Boundary Pavilion and obtaining the proof of entry into the netherworld will you be able to become a true ghost and travel freely in the netherworld. Otherwise, you will be a wandering ghost. So it was to obtain an identity card. Thank you, Big Brother Chen. Death by sickness ghost girly. There's no need to be polite. Could he not mention the matter of dying of illness? Zhu Yao had thought that the so-called World Boundary Pavilion would definitely be a mighty and domineering place. After all, it was a place to obtain identity cards, and no matter what, it was still considered a government unit. In the end, Chen Zhen pulled her and floated towards a pond by the roadside, and pointed to a muddy waterway. This is the World Boundary Pavilion. Put the sailor in. What happened to the promised government unit? This identity card collection was a little too casual, wasn't it? Zhu Yao's expression darkened as she extended her hand into the water. The water in the pond was not the least bit wet, and the tip of her hand felt as though it was touching a ball of cotton. It was soft. A moment later, a faint green light suddenly shone from the center of her palm. Slowly, a circle appeared, and the word nether was written within the circle. It's green. Chen Zhen happily patted on Zhu Yao's shoulder. Death by sickness ghost, as expected, were faded. What does this color mean? Zhu Yao retracted her hand, only to see the light on her hand slowly dimming, leaving behind a green nether character the size of a fingernail. There's a total of 7 colors. Every new ghost that enters the city will have a color when they receive their token. This color represents the city they will be staying in from now on. Green represents the green city. He reached out his hand, and a similar green symbol could be seen on his hand as well. Coincidentally, there's still an empty space next to my house. You can stay there, and in the future, we will be neighbors. So this color was a residence, and she could even choose her own land. She wondered if there was a property certificate? Big Brother Chen, don't ghosts have to reincarnate? Why do we have to choose a place to stay? Chen Zhen turned to look at her with a strange expression. Reincarnate? Why would you have such a terrifying thought? Don't you want to cultivate into a deity? Ghosts can become deities as well. You're kidding me, right? Of course you can. Chen Zhen nodded heavily. He pulled her to the side and sat her down, looking as though he wanted to discuss his ideals with her. Girlie, I know it's a little pitiful to be a death by sickness ghost, but don't give up on yourself either. As long as you're able to cultivate out a spiritual body, there's hope for you to once again step onto the great Tao. What did this have to do with whether she was a death by sickness ghost or not? However, she had never heard of ghost cultivators before. Forget about the cultivation world of the past. Even in the divine realm, she had never seen a ghost ascend into a deity. Chen Zhen saw that she still looked as though she did not understand. Hence, he gave her some general knowledge about the underworld. After listening to him, Zhu Yao finally understood that the so-called cultivation was similar to deity cultivation. However, cultivation here was more complicated than human cultivation. If ghosts wanted to cultivate, they had to first cultivate a spirit body, ascend to the spiritual realm, obtain a physical body, and then cultivate to become an immortal. To put it simply, one had to first cultivate a body, break away from the identity of a ghost, and then ascend to become an immortal. Then why not just reincarnate and obtain a new body to cultivate? Wouldn't that be easier? To reincarnate, one needs to cross the river of forgetfulness, Chen Zhen said. The waters of the river of forgetfulness can wash away all imprints from one's previous life, including one's cultivation and spirit roots. It was impossible to predict what would happen in the next life, and it was hard to say whether or not he would have spiritual roots, let alone ascending to the great Tao. Ghost cultivators, on the other hand, were different. As long as they cultivated a spirit body and ascended to the spiritual realm, they would be able to recover the cultivation they had when they were alive. Isn't that better than reincarnation? So that's how it was. No wonder so many ghosts stayed in the netherworld. They wanted to take another gamble. She was a little curious about the place called the spiritual realm. Chunjun said that the place next to his house was still empty, so he told her to stay there. When Zhu Yao arrived and took a look, she realized that there was really an empty piece of land next to his house. It was a green clearing filled with weeds. Flip's table. Give me a piece of land to stay on. What's the use of that? Dig a hole? Zhu Yao looked at Chunjun's single-family courtyard, and then looked at the empty land in front of her. The corner of her lips twitched. Chun. Big bro Chun, this land can't be used for ghosts, right? Sure, it's pretty big, isn't it? Chunjun said with a kind look. There isn't even a single house here. Oh right. Chunjun scratched his head, and then passed her an object. Here, take it. What's the use of giving me a shovel? Dig a hole and bury myself? This location isn't bad. Chunjun stepped on the empty land, and stopped at a spot. He then waved his hand at her. Let's dig here then. Dig a little bigger. It'll be more comfortable to lie down. He really wanted her to bury him. Crash. The sky is about to brighten. I'm going home to sleep, so I won't be accompanying you anymore. Chunjun waved his hand at her. See you tomorrow, sick dying ghost girl. Wait a minute. First, settle my accommodation problem. What happened to the promised love between neighbors? Is it only worth a shovel? Chunjun did not turn back, and immediately floated back to his own courtyard. Then he took out a white strip of cloth, hung it on a tree in his courtyard, tied a dead knot, and then hung it on the tree. Zhu Yao. That was this, the correct sleeping posture of a hanged ghost? What should she do? She suddenly felt that digging a hole to sleep in was much more normal. Zhu Yao silently picked up the shovel. She was currently just a regular ghost. Even if she had a stomach full of mystic arts, she could not use any of them. She could only dig holes one after another. The sky was beginning to brighten as well. The surroundings, which were still a little dark earlier, could now be seen clearly. There were a few scattered houses in the surroundings. Compared to the city she came from, it was much more deserted. Probably because the other ghosts were all sleeping, the surroundings were very quiet. Zhu Yao was curious where the sudden light came from. Raising her head, she saw that it was not the sun in the sky, but layers of aurora-like light rays, dancing in the air like ribbons. She reached out her hand to feel it, but she could not feel the slightest bit of warmth. The light was only bright, but not the source of heat. Zhu Yao dug for exactly 2 hours, before she managed to dig out a human-sized hole. Miraculously, she did not feel tired in the slightest. She basically did not have any side effects from high-intensity physical activity. Hence, she decided to go all out, and dug even harder. As though she was digging a hole in the ground, she dug a basement for herself, and then dug out a soil bed, a table, and so on. When she regained her senses, a day had already passed. The sky had darkened as well. Only then did Zhu Yao float to the bed and lie down. Initially, she thought that she would not feel tired, but a wave of drowsiness assaulted her, and she immediately fell asleep. This kind of sleep was different from normal sleep. She was conscious, but she could not feel the things in her surroundings. Her entire body felt as though it was soaked in water, and was incomparably soft. There seemed to be white thread-like substances floating in her surroundings. They looked a little like the auroras in the sky during the day, but much thinner than those. She subconsciously wanted to grab them, but they dissipated. Chapter 230. Before Zhu Yao could even react, Chunjun had already pulled her out of the door to the underworld, and floated to the vicinity of a farmer's courtyard. The surroundings were pitch black, and the only source of light was a dim oil lamp inside the farmer's house. A human figure was moving within the house. Why are we here? As a ghost, coming to the mortal realm was always uncomfortable, as the yang energy was too strong. Of course it's to scare people, he said with a serious look. Why did she have to go and scare people out of nowhere, hey? What's the benefit of scaring people? Chunjun was startled. He scanned her from head to toe, and said with a serious look, as a ghost, if I don't even know how to scare people, wouldn't that be too embarrassing? She completely did not think so. Huiyuanjia, don't be sad. He looked at her with a pitiful look. It's fine if you don't know how to scare people, Big Brother can teach you. Ho ho. She did not want to learn at all. All right? Thank you. Don't mention it. We're neighbors after all. He patted on Zhu Yao's shoulder, and with a shake of his body, he once again returned to that ghost with blood flowing out of his 7 orifices. He said with great pride, "Today, Big Brother will let you witness what is considered an outstanding ghost." As he said that, he confidently floated into the courtyard. Just you wait. Big Brother will scare people for you to see. Zhu Yao's expression darkened. Yet Chen Jun had already passed through the wall and carried out his grand plan of scaring people. However, 2 hours had passed, yet there was not the slightest commotion in the house, let alone any screams or the like. He couldn't have been taken in by someone, right? She could not help but feel a little worried. There was still quite a distance between this place and the house. Even if she stretched her head out to take a closer look, she could only see a blurry shadow on the window. It'll be good if I can see it clearly. Here. A tall and skinny ghost had suddenly appeared at the side. He blinked his left eye at her and passed her an item. I'll let you have a look. Zhu Yao was startled. She thought that he was giving her some sort of visible mystic artifact, or binoculars or something. Lowering her head, she saw a round eye lying in his hand. What's the use of your eye? Flip's table. Also, can this thing be casually taken out to play? You don't want to? The tall, skinny ghost tilted his head with a look of disappointment. He pressed one hand on his right eye and took out the other eye. Forget it, I'll lend you both. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. I'm not complaining that it's too little, hey? No, there's no need for that. Taking a deep breath, Zhang Xian decided to take a look himself. He floated into the house. There was only a woman in the room. She was sitting on a chair and sewing something seriously. It was very quiet all around. Except, Chen Jun was trying his best to make all kinds of faces in front of the woman. Using both his hands and feet, he stretched his bleeding face into all kinds of shapes. Square, round, flat, uneven, and polygonal. He changed his face almost every 2 seconds, and there were no repetitions. She gave her best performance to the point that it was touching. However, the woman didn't react at all. She was sewing the clothes in her hands seriously. Occasionally she would raise her head, but it was only to pull out the oil lamp beside her. She couldn't see at all. Sick dead ghost sister, wait a little longer. I'm about to scare her. Chen Jun said with a serious look, as he put in even more effort to pull out his face. This stubbornness was also touching. Just as Zhu Yao was about to remind him, a gust of cold wind swept past. The tall, skinny ghost who passionately borrowed her eye earlier floated towards the woman as well. His body was filled with a ghostly aura, as though he was planning to go all out. Suddenly, in front of the woman, he plucked out 2 eyeballs, and then with his 2 hands, as though he was performing acrobatics, he tossed and caught them. Zhu Yao. Seriously, so scary. It's you again, the fallen ghost? Chen Zheng glared at the tall, skinny ghost who suddenly appeared. He was instantly enraged, and angrily shouted out. It's useless even if you try to snatch them. I will definitely scare her before you do. Humph. Whoever scares her will be the one to blame. The tall, skinny ghost coldly snorted, and then plucked out another ear. He took turns with the 3 ears, and threw them with even more effort. Chen Zhen's fighting spirit seemed to have been stimulated as well, as he worked even harder to make his face. At one moment, he pulled it into an S shape, and at the next he squeezed it into a B shape. Zhu Yao. What kind of method was this to scare people? Did no one realize that the woman basically couldn't see ghosts? She was just a regular mortal, right? She basically hadn't opened her heavenly eye, right? It's useless no matter how much you guys try to scare people, hey? Why do you guys have to conduct such a childish competition? Speaking of which, Zhu Yao probed. Just how many mortals have you guys scared before? When her words came out, it was as though she had pressed the pause button for the 2 of them. The 2 ghosts stopped at the same time, and changed into awkward expressions. Zhu Yao suddenly had a bad premonition. It can't be. Not a single one, right? The tall, skinny ghost lowered his head and counted his eyeballs. Chunjun squatted at the corner of the wall and drew circles. Zhu Yao, who had accidentally guessed the truth. That flips table. You haven't scared a single person before. Just where did you get the confidence to teach her to scare people? Cuckoo. Sickly ghost girly. Chunjun decided to redeem his dignity as the big brother. Scaring people is a huge skill, it's not that simple. Furthermore, this woman's strength is too strong, and her will is too firm. She won't be scared that easily. She basically can't see you guys at all, alright? It seems like I have to change my target. Chunjun looked around, and his line of sight landed on the infant in the cradle at the side. In an instant his eyes shone. Let's change it to him then. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. Do you have any shame? You won't even let a child off. Chunjun had already eagerly floated to the side of the cradle. Strangely, the child in the cradle actually chuckled. Holding onto a little wooden horse, he happily waved his little hands at Chunjun. A child's mind was pure, and indeed, he could see many things that adults could not. It was not strange for him to be able to see ghosts. Chunjun was overjoyed, and once again he tried his best to make scary faces at the child. Unfortunately, the child did not cry from fright. The child laughed. She giggled happily. Chunjun was not discouraged in the slightest. He changed his strategy, turning his face terrifyingly pale and ghastly. Opening his mouth, he stretched out his slightly purple tongue, and it hung straight into the cradle. It stretched out longer and longer. And then, it was grabbed by the child. Ouch, 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 ouch. Chunjun was in so much pain that he stomped his feet. After spending a great deal of effort to save his own tongue, he hid far away with a wronged look. Let me do it. The tall and skinny one stood out, and stared straight at the child. Suddenly, he let out a mouthful of energy, and slowly took out both of his eyeballs. He handed them over to the child, and said eerily, I don't have eyes. The child waved his little paw. He instantly smacked his eyes out. Ah, my eyes. The tall and skinny one instantly broke down, as he turned around and began to search for the rolling eyeballs. Were these two monkeys sent by a clown? Just who was the one scaring who? Zhu Yao sighed. She turned to look at the child in the cradle. He seemed to have lost interest in the little wooden horse, as he grabbed onto the other eyeball of the tall and skinny one, and began to play with it. Death by sickness, ghost girly, be careful. Chunjun stuck out his tongue, and warned with lingering fear in his heart. That child is too scary. You won't be able to defeat him. Zhu Yao could not be bothered with him. After looking for a moment, she immediately reached out her hand, and took the eyeball away from the child's hand. With his toy suddenly missing, the child was stunned for a moment. In an instant his little face frowned, and with a wah sound he cried out in a very sad manner. The child's cries startled the woman, and she hurriedly came over to carry and comfort him. Just as Zhu Yao was about to return the eyeball to the tall and skinny one, when she turned her head, she bumped into two admiring faces. Death by sickness, ghost girly, how did you do it? Chunjun's eyes were glowing with a green light. Ah, you scared that child. I didn't do it on purpose. Chunjun was so excited that he spun in circles. You actually scared someone. I've never been scared before. You even scared someone to tears. You're really too amazing. Was this something to be proud of? If this goes on, you'll be able to scare even more people very soon. I don't want to scare people in the slightest, alright? Speaking of which, just why do I have to scare people? Of course it's to become a ghost errand boy, Chunjun said with a matter-of-fact look. Ghost errand boy? What the hell was that? As long as you scare people 10 times, you can become a ghost errand boy. Only by becoming a ghost errand boy can you cultivate your spiritual body. I have to scare people 10 times before I can cultivate my spirit body? What kind of rule was this? Wasn't this a little too casual? No wonder Chunjun showed a sympathetic expression when he found out that she was a ghost who had died of illness. A complete ghost like her, of course, would not be as scary as these ghosts who had opened up their stomachs. Aren't netherworld operatives supposed to be in charge of capturing souls? Since when did it become a part of cultivation? Zhu Yao felt that her worldview needed to be reconstructed. He looked at the eyeball in his hand, then at the child who had been put back into the cradle. Wasn't it just 10 scares? He stretched out his hand to pass the eyeball to the child, but when he saw the child reaching out to take it, he immediately retracted his hand. The child's mouth flattened, and he was just about to cry out. She immediately handed it over and then took it back, pass it again, and so on. 10 times. Mission complete. Title: Bad Auntie. Sure enough, after 10 tries, the green hell character in her hand glowed and slowly turned into a white substandard character. Just like that, he became an emissary of hell? As expected, it was very casual. Huiyuanjia. Chen Zhen and his little companion were dumbfounded. His hands trembled as he pointed at the child, and then pointed at her. You actually managed to scare people 10 times in a single day. This is too unbelievable. You're really a genius. This is completely easy, alright? Zhu Yao immediately returned the eyeball to the tall and skinny ghost. I have never seen any other ghost do it. Chen Zhen said with a serious look. A strange feeling flashed in the depths of Zhu Yao's heart. Suddenly, a few crows could be heard. The sky is about to brighten. The tall and skinny ghost yawned. Let's hurry back home and bury them. After saying that, he floated out. Chen Zhen pulled Zhu Yao and followed after him. Along the way, his eyes were sparkling when he looked at her, as though he was a fan who saw his idol. She floated all the way to the door to the underworld. The substandard character in her hand had even attracted the pursuit of various ghosts. Wow, you're a ghost errand boy. This is the first time I've seen a ghost errand boy. That's right. You've already scared people 10 times in such a short period of time. Amazing. Lord Ghost Errand Boy, let's be friends. How did you do it? Teach me as well. I can let you play with my bones. Me too. I can let you count my intestines. Me too. Zhu Yao's expression darkened. I'm completely not interested in your bodies, alright? Yet Chen Zhen still had a proud look. Go away, all of you. Huiyuanjia is my neighbor. None of you have a share. If she wants to play, she'll be playing with my body. Zhu Yao, who was playing with her body. That Zhu Yao escaped home under the passionate gazes of a bunch of ghosts. Before she entered the house, Chen Zhen was still pulling her reluctantly. He wanted to invite her to stay the night. Huiyuanjia, why don't you stay at my house tonight? That tree of mine is big enough to hang a lot of ghosts, you know? I don't want to be a ghost that hangs to death. Zhu Yao rejected Chen Zhen and floated back to her basement. She lowered her head and studied the substandard character in her hand. When she had just become a ghost errand boy, she clearly felt some sort of energy seeping out from this character, entering her soul. After carefully sensing it, it seemed that her body was even more solid than before. Could it be that this character could really help in cultivating a spiritual body? Then what was the correct way to use a ghost errand boy? She had once asked Chen Zhen about it, but he only had a smattering of knowledge. In the end, he only knew that ghost errand boys could cultivate a spiritual body. As for what the process was and how to cultivate it, he couldn't explain it. Not only him, when she entered the door to the underworld, she had asked the other ghosts as well. But without exception, none of them knew. Zhu Yao faintly felt that there was something wrong with these ghosts, but she could not put her finger on it. After pondering for a moment, she decided to go to the boundary pavilion where she could collect her identity card. When Zhu Yao arrived at the door to the underworld, the sky was already bright. The originally bustling streets were now completely empty. Although this was the underworld, ghosts never liked to wander around during the day. Adding that she had already been here for 2 days, she did not encounter any bad things. The security of the underworld was unexpectedly good, and she had never seen fights or anything like that before. The pond in the boundary pavilion was by the side of the road. Zhu Yao glanced at the reflection in the water and saw a woman in her 20s. She was extremely familiar with her. Most probably because she had become a ghost, this was her original appearance in the modern era. However, compared to when she saw her in the underworld back then, her body was evidently a little different. Previously, it was just a faintly discernible shadow. But now, as though it was suddenly colored, it seemed to be a little clearer. She immediately extended the substandard character in her hand into the pond. Suddenly, the water surface began to stir. Ripples spread out, and something seemed to be slowly rising from the center of the pond. A moment later, a ray of red light shone, and a circular formation instantly appeared on the surface of the water. A teleportation formation. Zhu Yao was startled. Suddenly, a human head popped out from the teleportation formation. When it saw Zhu Yao, its eyes instantly shone, and it said with an excited look, "Finally, someone has awakened their spiritual consciousness. I'm about to be as busy as a dog. Hurry, 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 newcomer, follow this daddy to scare ghosts." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.